introductions, right? Brief opening thoughts. And then we'll just kind of get into it. When Prime gets here, we'll throw him in, and we'll see how this goes. Should be a fun discussion. Any questions before we go live?
Nope.
Okay, well then, in that case, welcome. Oh, hold on. Okay, great. We're unmuted now. Welcome, one and all, to yet another episode of Wick TV. It's a cross-ideological space where we come together to talk about issues both political and cultural, from the silly to the serious. And gang, have we got a show for you tonight? Democrats, do they have a masculinity problem? If they do, how do they fix that problem? What do they have to do to solve it? In what ways are we failing men? If we're failing them at all. We're going to talk about it. We got some great guests. We're going to have at least one more coming soon. Prime Kai, he'll be here when he gets here, and we'll just drag him in and we'll have him say his piece. But for now, let's give it a start with first-time guest on my channel, Nasser. Nasser, tell people who you are, what you do, and what are your thoughts. Go ahead.
Internet lurker. Generally, I work for the loudest mouth on the internet. I'm not going to say the company's name, but you should know who that fucking person is. He owns multiple companies, but I'm not going to say the company, unfortunately. I don't want to represent it that hard. Um, and I'm just a lurker on the internet. Generally, I do debates on occasion. I'm more likely to be on Primes than yours. This is my first time with you, and I'm happy to be here. I'm going to represent the Democrats don't have a masculinity problem. So that's my side of it.
Okay, we'll get in. Prime also has that same take, but I'll let him give it when he gets here, but we'll get into it. Soy Pill, no stranger to my channel. What are your thoughts on this? Go ahead. Who are you? What do
Yeah.
you do? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm the Soy Pill. I make video essays. I sometimes do debates with Wick. Not usually with him, sometimes. The left, I think, has really ceded all of the positive parts of masculinity to the right. I think there's been a huge pendulum shift away from masculinity because there's a lot of traits that we don't like. Toxic masculinity is real. We try to get away from these things that are like machismo and never crying, not showing your emotions. But unfortunately, in doing so, we've also ceded all the things of being a cool, strong lumberjack guy to the right, because the right only has one standard for masculinity, and that is the traditional one. And because that embodies the right, we're kind of afraid to embody that. We're afraid to say, hey, working out is cool. We're afraid to say, hey, you're allowed to be, a player. You're allowed to go be aggressive, not aggressive, but, go out there and, ask women out. Be the first one to ask someone on a date. So I think the left has a problem. I think you look at any of the polling data, and people view the left as pretty emasculate, and I hope that we can change that.
Okay, well, thank you for being here. We'll get into it as we go. Next up, Visora. Go ahead. Tell us who you are, what do you do, and what are your thoughts? Go ahead.
What's up? I'm Visora. I stream on YouTube and Twitch Monday to Friday. I cover the news. I talk about political theory, sometimes social issues, generally pretty much whatever I feel like. Look, I keep hearing about this, how Democrats have a masculinity problem. The latest example being like Harry Sison, the 23-year-old TikTok star who allegedly was lying about being monogamous with women on Snapchat. A college kid acting like a college kid. Like suddenly this is a liberal masculinity crisis. This isn't about Democratic men being weak. This is all a distraction that's got like juiced up online by pearl clutching liberals, but really regime run bots. I would say more than anything. And the right loves this stuff. They'd rather us be debating on some influencers dating life, talking about Tim Walz and tampons or some stupid shit like that instead of why people can't afford rent. Democrats don't have a masculinity problem. Democrats have a focus problem. Stop capitulating to the Republican narrative. Stop playing the culture war games with them. Start talking about what people actually care about, what actually matters. People's wages, health, social security, the risk of war, the rampant disease spreading across this country. That's it. That's the real issues. This is a non-issue.
Well, thank you for being here. Glad you're here to talk with us. And speaking of non-issues, Prime Kai, welcome to the show. How you doing, buddy?
Fine. Hope you're doing well, friend. And hello to everyone else here. So yeah, I don't think that I didn't hear what everyone else said, so if I repeat something, then I do apologize. But yeah, I don't think Democrats have a masculinity issue like whatsoever. I think we have ceded. Sorry, we, not a Democrat. But I think the left has ceded the territory of like masculinity because we just haven't been fighting on this, fighting there. I think that like we spent a lot of time focusing on the needs of women, and like great, right? I'm glad that we did that. But like at some point that became an opposition to the needs of men, right? That like within like the liberal intelligentsia, right? It became well, if you are trying to concentrate on men, right? If you're trying to say men have a problem, then what you're doing is trying to be subversive and undermine our ability to assist women in with their various issues. But I don't think these things actually have to be in contention. So I think that's something that happened, but we can pull back from that. I think we are pulling back from that, and I think we can address these issues quite easily.
We'll get to it. Thank you for being here. Really appreciate you, friend. Last but certainly not least, Bass FC, or Xerxes, as we like to call him here. Who are you? What do you do? And what are your thoughts? Go ahead.
So I like to think of myself as a social commentator. I speak about the male-female dynamic, relationships, trying to find a way to save modernity, so to speak. As far as the topic at hand, I think on a very visceral surface level, it's very easy to see that Democrats 100% shy away from even just the outwardly masculine portrayal. A lot of the young men they do like to follow. For example, I think Visora just brought up Harry Sesson. They're very weak looking, sometimes pretty effeminate looking individuals. They are unassuming. They are afraid of to have that intimidation factor that is within or is a part of at least people's portrayal or understanding of masculinity. I think it's very easy to see. You can see this a lot with Destiny too. A frail portrayal just physically of these young men who are actually put into the forefront. I think just from that factor alone, you could see they are quite lacking. But also, there's a lot of pandering and disdain they have themselves of other young men as a way to separate themselves. Again, if we use Harry Sesson off the top of my head, I was researching him a little bit for my own video about the topic. I remember this one clip people keep bringing up is him pandering to young ladies, saying that America has failed them in multiple different regards. That pandering and that weakness to just tell people what they want to hear is absolutely the opposite, I think, of what should be considered virtuous or masculine behavior. So I think it's a little obvious when you look at it from the men that a lot of Democrats choose to put in the forefront. So we'll leave it there
thanks
for now.
And with that, we'll open it up. I know a lot of you want to get in. We're going to start with Visor, and then we'll go to Nasser, and then we'll get on to it.
You're
Go
saying
ahead.
that people like what Harry Sison, that liberal men are effeminate. Harry Sison is literally getting shit right now for sleeping with too many women, and you think that that's not masculine enough? What would you consider masculine on the right? Really quickly. Like, just really quick, let me ask you a question on that. Who is, like, what's someone masculine on the right? Give me an example.
Our vice president.
That, unfortunately, a lot better than most people.
Sorry?
He probably could. Our vice president, he did 2 tours in Iraq, I think is pretty
Our
masculine.
vice president who wears makeup and goes on stage and, cries?
Well, it's
the
cosmetic makeup, and crying also isn't a problem either. I don't
like
think.
not crying. If he was actually crying, I would respect that. I mean, whinges about like, did you say thank you to Zelensky? I feel like that's more effeminate than anything that I've seen out of a Democrat. Off to you, Nasser.
Perhaps.
I'm gonna say this a lot, and I'm really I don't like saying this, but I have to defend Zers here. Sisson, Dean Withers, all these guys. I agree with their politics, but they are these weird kind of like manufactured Democratic kind of like twinky little boys. They're not really masculine insofar as like what traditionally.
But they're not. Masculine. They're not that either. They're generally college students that are literally coming up in the new political era. But also to defend him as well, we have like figures that Trump went on the tour with. We have the Nelk brothers. We have literally the Neon and fucking Aiden Ross and who's that podcaster with the mullet? Good lord. God
So
damn
you're
it. I
speaking
forgot
another language
None
right
of
now. I have
these
no idea
people
who
come
these
Yeah,
off
people
well,
are.
as like manly men to me.
but these are all
they
very
aren't.
popular figures in
might
the
be.
current modern zeitgeist that are literally being looked at by other males. Joe Rogan is literally the number one podcaster in the world.
But you
So
would
not to like,
absolutely consider
yeah,
him masculine, though. I
The
don't know if you call him
the
right
hyper
wing, maybe
macho
so, but absolutely masculine.
yeah.
the hyper macho posturing is a Republican value. It's not a Democrat value. In fact, like, look, we had Tim Walz, which, like, you guys made fun of for wanting to give tampons to literally anyone who could need them, but Democrats saw him as he wore like a camo hat, went hunting, could shoot guns. He served in the military at the highest rank of any elected official in office
Yeah,
in
as a
American
respected
history.
official, and that's
So
what we wanted to. That's what Democrats want to push forward. They want to push forward the respectableness, whereas in Trump's kind of leaning towards the influential. The influential is kind of not the best with the truth.
can
When we look at a Joe Rogan, we don't see him as like a
Why
truth
does the
teller.
masculinity need to
Well, I have a
relate to
question.
that?
I have a question.
Hold on. They're
I know, I
all
know.
wanted to go at once. I want to get everyone
Yeah.
I can in here. I want to give it
Just-
to Prime for a minute, and then
just
we're
very
gonna give
quickly.
it. Yeah.
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 Can we like bypass most of the confusing nonsense of this conversation and like be a bit more specific as to what we mean by masculinity, right? Because
Simple.
one's gonna say like, "Oh, this person's super masculine," another person's gonna say it's not. Then we're not gonna understand why we have these differences. Can we get a bit more concrete on that? I'd love to hear what you have to say.
So just to be clear, the reason we're having this conversation, the reason we're bringing it up, is because poll after poll after poll shows that Zoomer men, young men, college age men, they're all hard leaning right. They're all in
Yeah.
an almost unprecedented degree turning to the right. So the question becomes, why are Democrats not appealing to young men? Right.
Well,
So
'cause they hate
whether or
them.
not we have
I'll
masculine
answer
people
that
within
one.
the Democratic Party isn't
It's
the-
not
isn't
about
quite-
masculinity here. I think it's about a perception of masculinity that's being misconstrued. It's actually about the ability to counterattack. And Democrats are weak with their counterattacking, and because of that, come off as weak in their messaging. And that's the argument.
I think you're missing something
The
critical,
masculinity is
But-
just soft bluster.
Hold on, but like it seems like the other side's, at least the other side's argument is that like the left is missing masculine figures, right? So then if we don't
Well,
understand what we mean by
more than
masculine-
that. See, but I think it's even deeper than that, right? Because I think you're right. One, we should identify masculinity first, but to counter Visora really quickly, I think what you're missing is that a lot of Zoomers don't feel like they're even accepted or even represented by Democrats. And the reason why is because there is a lot of disdain from liberal, feminist, left-leaning side of people for the mere concept or the existence of being a male. Would you accept that?
I would say it's more likely that's a problem in a very specific subset of establishment liberals, but very rarely anything broader to the left of that. And I would say it's much more of an issue on the right, that the right thinks that this is an issue and then creates it. Like, yes, there are women and like even men on the left who have these like thought processes, but they're few and far in between. I feel like most of those people are Joe Rogan watchers, to put it bluntly.
Visora, I don't actually disagree with
think
what
it's
you're
more of an
saying.
issue.
Sorry,
Let's go soy then Nasser. That's
yeah,
order.
Visora, what you're saying, especially in your opening statement about that, how this is a non-issue, the only part I disagree with is not that, like, we have a masculinity problem insofar as our men are doing something wrong or that there is a sincere problem we need to fix. The problem is what you're saying, is the perception. And unfortunately, Zoomers are seeing this and they're saying, hey, I, have this perception from media that is, a very pigeonholing for men. Men are big, strong, muscly guys that go do hero stuff and action and save people and work out. And that's their only understanding understanding of it. Now, they're wrong, right? They are very tunnel visioned in that sense, but the left doesn't have those figures that embody that. In fact, some of us even reject it. And the problem is not that we need that because it's important to have that. The problem is that we've ceded that entire concept, that entire archetype to the right, and therefore all these people who are misled are going to go to the right because they don't see that on the left.
I agree to an extent. Like, I don't think that Gen Z is all that obsessed with masculinity. Like, Gen Z and millennials to an extent, younger millennials, are much more fluid in their gender. They're adaptable to that. The discourse around whether or not it's okay to be a man on the left is manufactured discourse. Sorry, Nasser, you had your hand up for 100 minutes. But you're all right. You're all right. We are ceding this ground, but we don't need to fight on their terms. It's not like we have Fetterman, for example. Dude showed up to the inauguration wearing cargo shorts and a t-shirt. Now, like, you could say that that's masculine, but that didn't make a good difference.
No, it just made him look like a slob, really.
I agree.
That wasn't masculine.
But this is a real surface level view of it, right? Like, if I were to ask you, like, what are some masculine virtues you think a young man should exhibit? What would you say they are?
Well, first I would add
that's
in
subjective.
Yeah, I would say first that's subjective.
It is, but that's not the point of the question.
I can add some. But I do want to say, I don't think that virtues need to be gendered in any way, but sure, kindness,
and that right there,
empathy.
That's perfect. That's a perfect response. You can't even give weight to the concept of what it means to be masculine. The first thing you said was, maybe it shouldn't be gendered.
No, I'm saying
that's what Gen Z is seeing.
No, I'm saying that your moral views shouldn't be gendered.
Being a male is good.
Why do you think that men should have specific standards for their moral behavior that is gendered directly to them?
I'm gonna answer your question, and actually, this is actually thanks to Soy Pill. I've actually updated my opinion on this. Maybe he might like it, maybe he won't. We'll see right now in real time. I remember one time. I remember one time we had a debate, I think, and he asked me a similar question, or he made a point. He said, "Everything you labeled about being masculine are all good traits. Why don't we just apply it to women?" I say, you know what? He actually has a great point. Why don't we just put it all into women? And that's a great, excellent point. I think it's
why doesn't it just apply to
that
people?
There should be exactly, and I think you guys are right that honestly, virtue should just apply to people generally. The problem is that you don't even begin to see ground that there are good things about being a man. The first thing you did was you filtered it out. You didn't even say,
that's not what you asked
there are
me.
some ideals. It is what I asked you. What are some positive virtues about masculinity? Sure. That's what I asked.
Which we both agreed was subjective, but...
Okay, but that I do want to answer the question. Like, Prime, you're making a real face, and I want you to answer this too, right? Because I think a young man watching this who doesn't really know what it means to be a man, like, he wants to be a man.
Kindness, empathy, community advocacy.
If I may finish, right? They want to be a man. They're like, how do I do this? What should I do to be a man? And the answer that they're hearing is, well, you know, it shouldn't be gendered anyway. We're not giving an answer, so
it's be a man.
Let's have an answer. I really want one.
No, Visora, the issue is, and this is real quick, Visora, you're being too smart, and this is a bad thing. You are analyzing this from an academic, intelligent perspective, and unfortunately, most people don't view it that way. You and I can have a conversation about toxic masculinity and know exactly what we're talking about, but you say that term to 99% of the population, and they're going to think you're a man-hating, misandrous, feminist, screaming person, right?
I don't say.
The issue. Huh?
I don't say that word for that exact reason. You are right. No, I am thinking of this at a higher level of, you know.
Right. And so it's like, no matter how right you are right now, what matters is how do Democrats win these people back? And unfortunately, telling them, hey, we need to have gender neutral morals, which I agree with. Zerst just said it. Like, that is something I agree with. I maybe could be argued as a gender abolitionist. That's not a winning message right now.
We can get there. What does the right put out?
Sorry, hold on.
Sorry, go on.
Let's give it to Prime.
Yeah. So my point is entirely different from Soy Pill. Hello, hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, my point is entirely different from that. So I think that, you know, kids, young men are looking for guidance, right? And they are going out on the places where they can easily connect with other people. That happens to be social media, right? That's the path that they take. And they're looking, hey, like, what do I like? I'm a little lost here. And we have to have solid answers for them. And so, yeah, I kind of, I mean, I think we're on the same page that, like, I think it's weird to gender these like morals, right? Like a man should be responsible, but like shouldn't a woman be as well, right? We would hate if a woman wasn't responsible. Like all these things I think work. However, right, if we're actually talking to these men, if we're actually going to appeal to them, if we act, and if this is a path for them on their political journey, which apparently it is, right, then we actually do have to have that answer. Yeah, so like a man has to be responsible, he has to be reliable, he has to be able to take leadership roles, right? And we have to show men, like, what does that mean, right? He has to be the support unit for his family, right? Like, these are all like things that we can instill in young men. These are positive traits that we can say that like are masculine. That we can save like the more academic conversation for later.
That's fine.
I think since COVID, generally men have been seeking like some answers for particular things. When we look at it, I do believe this is more like a class issue, because we do separate like rural men from like maybe like a corporatist man, where generally they go to college, they go get their higher education. Not all the time, they'll probably end up leaning more left when they do receive that higher education, but generally I do feel like on the college level we've also kind of superseded all that. We gave a lot of the stuff to the left, and there's nothing really masculine about even college now. And now people are like being told not to even go to college. Go learn a trade instead.
I don't understand
and
how
go
this is class.
I know.
I want you to
because well, it is class based because you're learning a trade instead of going to college, and then generally you become blue collar. So generally, and then blue collar is immensely.
You can make a class based argument for this.
White collar.
Yeah, you're not. So, like, why is the people who have gone to college, why are they less masculine? Like, what's the argument you're making here? Because I don't understand. If you could expand, please.
Well, I mean, that's going to probably, I think men tend to do that to themselves. They tend to treat college like it is now. Now it is being kind of gendered, because generally now we have like the Andrew Tate, the hustle culture. The hustle culture has made it gendered in a way.
The hustle culture hasn't changed college. Hasn't changed the nature of college.
Well, the Andrew Tate kind of hustle culture, like the grind set culture.
Yeah, the mental illness
here. But like you haven't actually like drawn that out. Like what's the class? Like you're saying, if you look at a man who's gone to college and one who maybe has gone to a trade school, that there's a clear divide in level of masculinity or something. Like, could you expand on that?
Generally. But I think it's because the hustle culture has evolved into being kind of like this unhealthy, like thing.
It's the hustle economy.
Because if you look at Instagram, if you're looking at Instagram and you're looking at Instagram to constantly like kind of get reassurance or maybe find ways to like make money, or you're going to be fed that pipeline.
Okay, but again, that doesn't answer my question. I don't know why we're going to hustle culture. Like you're making an argument. Now, if you're saying that you're backing away from this argument, that's fine. But like I'm asking you to actually draw this out. Between trade school and college.
Maybe I'll help him out, because I think I see where he's going, but maybe I'm wrong. You can correct me if I'm wrong. But it is seen today as less masculine to go to college, and one of the evidences I would point to showcase that is that more and more men are not seeking higher education. They're either not enrolling in the first place, they are dropping out. We looked at a historical black college. I forget the name of it, but it's 75% women. That's crazy.
But that's dumb. But
yeah,
Rick,
why is that
dumb?
I agree with that.
To be clear, are you making this argument?
I'm trying to steal man his.
Okay. So if that's the argument, that's a dumb argument, right? Like there are barriers that keep.
I don't think it's a dumb argument. I think maybe.
Hold on. Let me counter that, right? And then please hit me back, right?
Counter, please.
Yeah, exactly. So there are barriers that are keeping men from getting to go to college, right? They don't have as much institutional help that we've like built up for women in the past 2 years. I think there is men who are feeling hopeless and they aren't achieving. I think there's achievement gap that's happening, like the below grades that's keeping men from being able to go. There's a whole list of issues there, and it's been very much studied, right, as to why men are failing. But it's not that there's suddenly a lack of desire to go to college, right? Like, give me a poll or something that says that.
Well,
it's the lack of help generally. If I'm going to steal your part of it, it's the lack of general assistance and the outwardly thinking outside the box, because a lot of people learn differently, and not necessarily men learn differently than women, and men learn differently than from themselves from another man, and stuff like that. So
Okay,
people
so then
generally
it wouldn't be
have
like
different
what the
learning.
point that Wick made.
Yeah.
Then. That would be like that's
again,
I do want to hear from Visora.
I think
too.
there's just a bastardization of like, because the media is even picking it up, like Joe Rogan's like, you probably don't, they kind of hint at stuff like that, and the higher, but people listen to these figures. I know you can just dismiss it, Prime, because you don't listen to any
I'm
of these
asking you to
things.
explain. You're just making assertion after assertion after assertion, and then I push back slightly, right, on you. Hey, expand on this, and then you move to another assertion. You don't actually expand on it. So please, like help us out.
I can expand on
the
you're making a class argument. Let me expand on it for you for a second. The class argument comes from the lower socioeconomic status men are feeling more emasculated because of the upper socioeconomic status people changing algorithms where everybody engages and gets their news from Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, doesn't matter, to show more outrage, because that's what gets you to do more engagement. We've seen this. It's been studied. It's been shown in Senate hearings. It's outrage politics.
Yeah, and maybe it'll push.
I'll take it a step further from this.
Trade school.
I'll take a step further from this. I think that this entire, even this current discussion of do the Democrats have a masculinity problem is based on an assumption that is a lie. We are lying to ourselves because the Republicans are not masculine. Republican figures are not masculine. Trump is loud. He's not masculine. Andrew Tate wears women's jackets and women's pants, and is also not masculine. Beating women up, raping them, and saying that you hate women is not being masculine. You want to know what masculinity means to me? Masculine traits of that you could apply to young people that you can advocate for is community advocacy. Going outside and protecting vulnerable people in your community because you are strong and because you take that onto yourself. It would be working to better the lives of people around you. These are what I would consider masculine.
Why would you take a Republican or the right?
You know what sucks about misogyny is the bad part is it works.
I'll let you go in a second, but this is an important point, and I think this is kind of hitting at the core of the issue here that I want to get. Like Prime just laid out a host of systemic disadvantages that men have when it comes to higher education, right? For a host of reasons, okay? Then the question becomes, well, I'll just ask this simply to everyone. Like, what Democratic policy is out there that is purported to help men? What Democratic policy is being pushed forward to help men? Because we acknowledge that we're in a crisis of sorts, of masculinity.
Child tax credit, equal paternity leave, anything that's all-encompassing and universal.
Hell, Biden was getting rid of student debt.
Women have to be having children.
Child tax credit is your answer to what
nobody's right, because we're talking about we're talking about systemic things that stop people from getting
rate to women.
No, first of all,
probably the better route would be better education.
Yes, but that ties into education. You can't go to school if you have to if you're stuck home taking care of your kids. You can't go to for example, Biden was erasing student debt, which was helping men and women. But
Wick, you hit the nail on the head. You immediately questioned me when I said that.
No, you're right.
Because the messaging is bad, right? You're like, I'm not saying, hey, men, this would be good for you. I'm saying this will be good for everyone. Men don't hear, oh, that's good for me. They hear that from the right, who's saying, well, men are oppressed. So you go and you talk to the right.
No, it happened again.
No, but you're right, and it's the optics. And to be really clear about it, you're 100% right. The child tax credit and subsidies to childcare do help men, but the right wing saying that men are oppressed while they're the ones instituting practices that continue not only the oppression of men but everyone else and make it worse is the issue here. How are you talking about education issues when the Republican Party is cutting the Department of Education, is cutting funding to universities that they disagree with, is making all of the tax cuts, not the tax cuts, sorry, the student debt cuts that Biden instituted reversed. So now you have to pay that back again. Like, the economic aspect of it absolutely falls into everything else. Like, if you can't afford to live, then that's your main issue. Right now, I think that the people who, the masculine, feminine, like, none of that matters. It's people that are in the working class, worry about getting substance for themselves, their
I think it does
housing,
matter.
their, like, it does matter, but first we have other priorities of life.
When we look at the
hold on.
when
We
we
kind of have to. Well, you can go, then I'll go. Go ahead.
when we look at the election, when we look at what Trump's appeal was, is he provided like a winning kind of ideal, and then he also provided like an actionable answers, where the Democrats probably failed to like
What were the
reflect
actual
that nature. All the lies he peddled. I'm not even going to even go through like the whole bullshit.
I'll agree with you here.
That I know. Yeah, yeah.
Did he peddle? Did he put forth though? Like,
the wall, the because generally immigration, generally a lot of the mindset.
Hold on.
Which I would offer
real
better
simple
job
message,
opportunities. Which
you could say it was you could say it was lie, and I would agree with you. But the real simple message was this from the Trump campaign was that masculinity is under attack. Men, you are being oppressed. You are under attack, and we will fix it.
It's the same issue as the border. No, you're right. You're right. Both of you are exactly right. It's the same issue as the border. They lied about that just like they were lying about the masculinity issue, and Democrats capitulated and allowed them to define it. You're right. They let them define it.
Yeah,
Tim Walz actually finally did. Tim Walz came out just this week saying, no, like, we allowed them to define the issue on immigration. We allowed them to define the issue on DEI, on masculinity.
That's not very masculine now, is it?
Yeah, well, that's the issue. It was what we let them. So let's fucking fix it.
Really, right? Just saying nothing is not gender.
So let's fix it.
To throw that question back at Wick, or sorry, not just Wick, just like the mirror question is like, what have Republicans done for men, right? And I think this is like it's a weird formulation.
I can answer that question.
Please, all right, go ahead. Yeah,
what they've done for them is they've maintained a standard of what it is to be a man without having any disdain or disregard for the concept itself. That's what they did. They gave them a home where they're going to be respected and at least pandered to. Now, I don't have the full understanding of different political policies to say one way or the other what is or is not effective. But socially, I can give you that. I can't give it to you, but I can give you socially and marketing wise exactly why it's stronger on the right than it is on the left, and that is they have a concept of what it means to be a man. And maybe you can on the political side.
The reason is, no matter what
socially
policies there are, right? Like, it doesn't matter if they're not helping more men. It doesn't matter. What matters is the optics, and all they have to do, because we've seen on this ground, is nothing. They don't actually have to pander to men. They just have to know that most people have this concept of masculinity in, like I said, media and just like traditional society that is the default, right? And this is something that academics are working away from, progressive society is moving away from, but we're not even close to being there yet. And these concepts that Visora is talking about, which are all true, are just not widely accepted. So when we push these things in the mainstream, which we should, and we should get there eventually, this is very alienating to people who do not understand them, and we haven't done the legwork in, whether it's people in high school or wherever else you need to like societally disseminate these ideas for people to be on board. So all the Republicans have to do is say, hey, we're not changing things. We're not making it weird.
Yeah, just some housekeeping.
Actually,
my internet's
all Democrats
going in and out. Just real quick, my internet's going in and out. I really apologize for that. I don't know what's wrong. I know it is women's fault though. Okay, Prime, go ahead.
Okay, so I think to combine Xerxes and Sway's point, right? Like, I think you guys are saying something that has a level of validity to it, right? That people in their minds think like, well, this is a party of men, right? Whether that makes sense or doesn't make sense, right? We can adjudicate that a little later. And then I like what you said, Soy, that they don't actually have to deliver anything, right?
But they have
put forth optics. Right? Oh, they have. So
they have delivered some stuff to men. It's just like,
what policies?
Well, I mean, they got rid of women's autonomy. They got rid of abortion. They're working to
Wait,
get
how?
because
That's not-
But they
one,
didn't get rid
they
of
got
abortion,
rid of
though.
abortion, not federally.
Well, they
not
didn't. They
fed-
overturned Roe
Would
v.
you allow
Wade.
me to
They
speak?
didn't get rid of it.
Are you gonna ask me a question and then
Yeah.
like speak over me the moment I start
Well, I
speaking?
technically didn't ask. I made a statement. but
No,
go ahead.
they
Go
overturned
ahead.
Roe v. Wade. They're
Technically.
working towards banning no-fault divorce. They're speaking
Oh,
regularly
no. It'll
on.
be hard to get a divorce. I'm sorry. I apologize. You go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, the no-fault divorce when your abusive husband is beating the fucking shit out of you. You should be able to divorce
now, case
them.
in point. Now, case in point is that response, that immediate jump to the worst possible example.
It's not the
of a male
worst possible
is
example.
the
It's a very
masculinity.
common one that I've
That's
also had to
absolutely
endure.
The worst possible. That's the
Oh.
worst possible interpretation.
The worst,
of being a
I
young
could get
man.
significantly
and because
worse
it's
than
coming
that.
from the Democrats, I'm
It's
sure
a-
you can.
It's
right?
You need
a
to do the
common
not all men thing
immediate
right now.
outcome.
You need
It
to do the not all men
regularly
thing.
happens. Yeah, but
that's
not all
but
men.
That's why they go for it. Exactly.
yeah,
They go
just
for
because
the not
you're-
all men
because they're dumb
we
enough
hear
that
the
they need
worst
to hear
possible
that.
interpretation.
I'm sorry, because some men-
state is damaged
I
enough that
refuse
they
to
need hear
accept
that.
that.
It's not about being dumb.
I refuse to accept the grounds that just because some men do shitty things and women get to talk about that and say, hey, maybe we should have the right to divorce our husbands with, let's
What?
say,
No, hold on.
no justifiable reason, quote
But
unquote.
there's two problems with this. There's actually
Because
two
it
problems.
regularly
Hold on, let her finish, and
happens.
then you go.
I refuse to
Okay.
accept the framing that this is A, misinterest, B, negatively polarizing to men. When men commit crimes on women and women say, I would rather you not do that, or I would rather have systems built that would protect me from this. I think that's a ridiculous
Can I try giving a
concept.
better
Men-
example?
the
'Cause
men
I
should
no
be
fault
held
divorce is
accountable.
not-
well,
is not
here's
very
the
good.
thing.
The men should be held accountable.
As much as I would like you to, Soypel, I think that this is a perfect encapsulation socially as to why males are hyper
Can I link something?
reactive to this, right? Because it isn't to say that these awful males don't exist. But the problem is, earlier in the conversation, I asked for a positive example of what masculinity is, and
I
you
gave you
couldn't
that.
give me that one.
I did.
But you could give me
I
easily.
did
You could
give
give
you
me
them.
a negative portrayal.
I gave
well, that
you
was only
several.
after we moved forward. That was
Literally,
only
when I
after
said,
we moved
okay,
forward into
let
the
me,
conversation.
before I answer
But-
your
but
question,
understand. But you have
explain
to listen.
my
You have to
point of
listen.
view, because
You have
we're
to listen.
talking
Yeah,
about
hold on.
our points of view. No, sorry, you get to cut me off regularly. I'm going to do the same to you. You asked me a question, and I said, in a debate
this is the
setting
problem.
where we are talking about our views, my personal view is this, but I would offer these answers. You immediately jump on the very first thing I said, ignore everything else, because you like to
didn't.
pick and choose your arguments, because you
I'm
can't
not. I'm
actually
making a point.
face one.
I'm making a point.
Fragile
and the
little
point that
shit
I'm
with your
making
weak-ass point.
is the portrayal of what men are listening to and hearing coming from the Democrats is what you are displaying.
What are they listening and
What
hearing
you are-
coming from
what-
the
I just told-
Republicans?
You won't. You have to listen. It doesn't matter what they hear from the Republicans. We're talking about
You-
the Democrats right now.
No,
it
but
doesn't matter.
no, it does.
So
When the
literally,
Republicans
we're
are
not
saying
we're
that
not playing
rape
this or
should
that.
be
But
legal
we'll get
and
to
that
it.
women should be
No one said
property,
that.
then yes, no.
But that's
What
the problem.
literally Andrew Tate said that this
No
week.
one has said that.
Okay.
He's not a Republican.
He's
It doesn't
a
matter.
Republican
He's
figurehead.
barely even American half the time.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. MAGA still looks up to him.
Hold on.
We-
We got more people in this debate. I
Now-
want to get more people in. Soy Pill's being very patient.
Well, hold on, but you gotta let me land the plane,
Alright.
and then I'll just let it go. But please
You
let me.
crashed
You
so
have-
many
you have-
planes
you
in
have
the
20
past 3
seconds.
months, sir,
So
so I
give me-
don't
so
trust
let me
you.
land
Land that fucking plane,
Alright.
please.
20
Okay,
seconds.
but let me land the
Yeah,
plane. I'm gonna
go
let it
ahead.
go. The negative portrayal of males is very, very easy to come out of the mouth of a Democrat. Very many young men keep hearing this, and they don't want to keep hearing it. The positive portrayals of males is coming from the right. Now, whether they're actually effective, literally, whatever, we're just talking about optics, as Soy Pill is saying. So, go ahead.
Okay. Soy Pill. And then
Okay,
Prime.
so
and then
I
Nas.
completely disagree with the no-fault divorce one because I think that's an incredibly unpopular idea. But Visora, to his point, the Harry Sisson thing you brought up is a very, good ideal of, hey, here's this democratic figurehead, and he is doing something that is traditionally masculine, which is being, having game, right? He's talking to all these beautiful women, and he's being fired for that, or he's stepping down, and everyone else in that democratic mainstream has to disown him. And young men,
Yeah, I think that's
want to be
ridiculous.
that, right? Young men see James Bond, they see Indiana Jones, like, oh, that's cool. He's like he gets the woman, that's so cool. And this guy's doing it, and ostensibly is not doing a Me Too thing where he's like sexually assaulting anyone.
It's not even illegal. It's just
maybe
wrong.
he lied to them. That
asshole.
could have been. I don't know the full story, but the point is, they see that coming from the Democratic Party. It's like, oh, you're being a little too into women. Get out of here, right? So that's the messaging they hear from the left. And you said, oh, it doesn't matter. Zerst said it doesn't matter what the right is saying. And to a degree, he's right. All they have to do is not that.
That's not
right?
the
They
whole
have
left.
some positive messaging.
It's not even the majority of the left, though. It's literally
it's what's
is just
coming out
the
of the mainstream.
establishment
That's the
Democrats.
most visible aspects of the
It's
left,
the establishment
unfortunately.
But also,
Democrats. But
they're
you're right. It is the
running
most
the
visible.
Democrats
You're
are
right. You're
unfortunately the
right.
ones with the most
I
power
just
right now,
just
so.
because we're in a actual intellectual setting, I just wanted to add a little bit of nuance to it. But you are right in your entirety, Soy Pill.
That's the trap you keep falling into, and I keep saying it's like a negative.
I'm
It really
sorry,
is the
but I
positive,
don't think
you're
that dumbing us
like,
down is a good
sorry,
idea.
I'm talking like we're in an intellectual setting, but like that's the problem. This country is not an intellectual setting. These people are like just so susceptible to the easiest
But this
arguments. And if
debate
the
is.
argument is, I understand, but like if we're saying, hey, what do the Democrats need to do?
1.5% was the difference.
I wish to God that everyone was as smart as you, Visora, and we just understood the nuance of, hey, like there are good and bad parts of masculinity, and we shouldn't embody those bad parts. But unfortunately, you have thousands, if not millions, of young men who look at this and they get turned off in so easily as, oh, you denounced me for masculinity, or they just hear the word
So
toxic
what
masculinity and they're
discussion
immediately
is?
off.
So how do we get to change?
Well, it's not just that.
Wait, I have an actual question for you, Soy Pill.
What's the
How do
question?
we improve this without discussion of these topics, like in the academic?
I can't answer that
This is gonna
question better than
this
he
is gonna
can.
sound so
Hold on, let's
dumb
Soy
and brain
Pill, then
dead.
we got Prime, then we got Nasser. Come on, we gotta.
But I can answer that
They've
question
been trying to
better
do
than
this.
I asked Soy
Just
Pill.
I'm
hold
sorry.
it in.
Are you the soy
Hold it
pill?
in
I
your
know you
heart.
did.
You.
Okay,
No,
you'll
I'm
get-
landing the plane.
we'll
All right,
get
get out of
your
the cockpit,
turn.
buddy.
Okay.
All right, I'm here.
Okay,
I
no, we're
have the aviators
co-pilots.
on.
What
Do you have
do you mean?
aviators on?
We are
You have aviators
co-pilots.
on? Get out of here.
Look,
all right?
I'm
Look,
right next to you. What are you
Soy
talking
Pill,
about?
you are surprisingly based.
Okay, so look, it's gonna sound dumb. That's because you have to make dumb appeals sometimes. Sometimes you have to play this ground. So you look at how Democrats after post-election have been trying to be like, well, maybe Hassan, maybe he's the Joe Rogan. Now, unfortunately, Hassan hates the Democrats, and he does not embody most of what mainstream Democrats are going to do. So what we need is a Hassan-type figure, or those kinds of people. If you're going to pump out these weird little Twinkie, Harry Sisson, Dean, whatever they're called, right? You need them to be a little more masculine, traditionally masculine, not in a toxic way, but they need to be like fitness influencers. They need to say, hey, look, like this is how you treat a woman well, but here, look, I'm with a woman. Now, Dean Withers and those people, like they have tried this, but unfortunately, and this sucks, their appearance does not emanate masculinity to most people. They look at that and they're like, that's a little Twinkie soy boy. And so it's unfortunate, but yeah, you do need to just play this game of there just needs to be more people
So we
that
need
are
an
like
Alex
a little
Jones.
more traditionally masculine.
We need
We
an
gotta get more
Alex
people in.
Jones for
Hold
the
on,
left.
We gotta get more
Alex
people
Jones is
in
not
here.
that. He's a
We do
Prime.
not need an Alex
red
Jones.
male.
As someone who's met Alex Jones, we don't need
Hold
an
on,
Alex
hold on,
Jones.
hold on.
I'm fucking
Prime,
around.
then Nasser. Go ahead.
Sure. I just want to push back on this idea that Republicans have actually delivered anything that is like pro-male, right? Like no-fault divorce. I mean, like I just searched it up and it's like, well, no-fault divorce, like the repeal against that has stalled across the country. And no-fault divorce is a state issue, not a national issue. So Trump can like talk about it, and he has, right? But he can't actually do anything about it. And then even state Republican parties have like put like no effort to actually make this happen. So they haven't delivered that, right? Restricting abortion access, like that's like a weird thing to say that's necessarily pro-male in any real sense of the term.
I don't think that it is that
No,
weird.
but that was her example. That was her example.
Can I justify why I said that was a pro-male? If you because you said it was a bit weird, so I'm wondering if you maybe didn't get it properly. But if you did, go on.
It's just so my point is that like there's like I think what we were saying previously, these policies are illusionary, right? And we shouldn't even give ground on that. The Republicans have somehow delivered for men in any material way. Like I don't think
delivery is a delusion.
At the same time,
I do agree.
Yeah, no, I
like
totally
it's
Delivery is not for this generation of male.
it's an
supposed to be for the
illusion.
next generation
No,
of male.
it's an illusion that was delivered.
Please, come on, please. So I think at the same time, though, and this is to your point, I think, Visora, right? Your other point is that I think we can actually still have adult conversations. Now, I stand by what I was saying previously, and that like when we're talking, especially to young men, right, we need to have a very clear, understandable message toward them about like what masculinity is supposed to be. However, right, beyond that, if someone is acting badly, and I have no opinion on the system thing, right, I don't care. But like, if men are actually badly, we should be able to regulate that, right? We should be able to say that, hey, that this individual within our group like is toxic, right? We shouldn't replicate what we see on the right, and just to say like, well, we don't want to be accused of being too feminine, right? By saying this guy who's being abusive or whatever the case might be, right? That we don't want to get rid of him because he's popular.
Yeah, just
Okay,
before we
respond
move
to that
on,
real quick,
let
and then
me.
we go to Nasser.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify really quickly that, like, in it, when I said that these were policies that the Republicans were delivering for men and that most were illusions, it is the illusion of returning to the traditional, like, nuclear family male system of, like, the hierarchy of, like, the man of the house is in charge and the man of the house gets to make the decisions, but also the man of the house has all this extra responsibility. It's that, like, the idea of that traditional family is what they've given to men on the right. Whether or not it's actually been implemented is a whole other thing. But to be fair, like, most of what MAGA believes is a delusion anyway, so like it doesn't really physically have to be tangible.
The
wonder-
messaging is
if
there,
I may.
regardless of whether or not they're delivering.
Yeah.
I think Prime, we probably agree that they're not actually delivering.
Yeah.
I think that, like, in Nasser, I'm going to let you go after this, right? I'll let you respond to this first, but I think maybe we're all overthinking it. There is this perception, and I think it isn't entirely unwarranted, that Democrats and the left in general do not care about men, right? That we do not care about men, that we prioritize women, minorities, etc., over white, straight.
Are there no men
right?
minorities?
I don't think
Well,
Republicans
hold on.
care about
White,
men.
straight men. Again, I'm
Well,
talking
we're
about
talking about
perception.
Like, that would be my
Yeah.
counter argument to that. I feel like
I
Republicans,
understand.
Democrats do care about men.
But Republicans are at least seen as
Doing
at
actionable
least
things.
giving lip service to
Can I,
this
can, I
idea.
give, can I give an example, Wick?
Can I please finish my point? And then yes, I'll let you all talk. Okay. But
Hey, how about me?
yeah, again, let me finish my goddamn point, and then yes, you can all respond to it. I promise you. But you gotta let me get it out, okay? Please, jeez. Okay. It's always talking over the man in the panel. All you feminine. Anyway, sorry. Okay, but no. They at least give lip service to this idea of men. You have lost your way, and we're going to help you out. You are being downtrodden upon. Whereas in a lot of cases, men are told to sit down. Right? It's not your turn. And we spent this for years. For years, the left said, "Men, you just sit down. You need to be quiet. Women are speaking. Minorities are speaking. It's not your turn. You've had it too good for too long." And that has been. It wasn't the majority of Democrats saying this, but enough were that it became it became a thing, and people internalized it, and people believed it, and that is unfortunately how we are seen. The Democrats are seen as people who do not care about men, and not only that, they actively work against men in some cases. Now, I'm not saying
You're
that's
right.
true.
No, I think it is true.
That's how it's seen.
I think it is true.
Okay,
I just think that it's
I wanna go to-
everyone.
The
I wanna
Democrats, go to
Democrats,
Nasser because
yeah.
Nasser's been waiting. Yeah. Go
I mean,
ahead.
we're the greatest country. America's the greatest country. I'm going to say it. But I think Democrats. I think what Democrats excel at is actually not making the men and women issues a versus issue, because constantly when you look at the right, it tends to be more of like a confliction of men versus women. Where
What do you think feminism is?
What do you think feminism is?
Yeah, if you
I
have
think-
men,
I think-
isn't it men versus women.
I don't think
how
feminism.
How would you believe that?
Feminism was
I think
never a
feminism- I don't think
Democrat
feminism,
policy.
and it never needed to
Boy,
be.
needs to read some
like-
Yeah, okay,
The
so
identity- the identity politics
leftists
side.
and feminists literally live in, though. They live on the
Mate,
Democratic.
your side, the Republicans are the identity politics side.
So don't give them that space, right? Because like what Nasser
I'm not
was
gonna
trying
give them
to
that
say
space.
is actually exactly
Yeah,
right.
but
like it's
that
not
would
that
be operating.
Yeah,
in the
because
I wanna
you're
take
thinking
it.
like
I wanna-
30
no, you're right.
man-hating
I wanna
feminists.
take it from
I'm
them.
thinking
Okay.
just yeah.
Well, Nasser's correct here. That like
So are
they're
you.
not actually in contention. So you're saying feminism, right? Like that, it must be like men versus women. That's not feminism. Like, that's a person who has like a feminism was a one-on-one
problem.
understanding of the situation, right? And you don't like, again, like it's not, feminism was never, well, sorry, I should say never, right? But the main,
We're supposed to be helping men too in the process of helping women.
Like
yeah.
by
Why is it
like
called feminism?
maternal
Let's
leave,
start
right?
level one.
It's not like people are like, for instance, maternal leave, right? They're not just like,
Can I simply-
because you
they're
right
fighting for
bastardized
paternal-
feminism.
May I
Hold on,
simply explain this?
Hold on. I'm like a few sentences, and I'm almost done. I swear to God, right? So yeah, it's like looking at like maternity leave, right? They're not just fighting, feminists aren't fighting just for maternity leave. They're fighting for paternity leave. They're fighting for the idea that men would also want to take care of their children, right? Give them that space. These things aren't actually in contention. People want to paint them that way. That's not actually the case. Done.
Like the
Yeah,
idea.
because when you look at it, when you look at the Republicans, it's kind of like a rural kind of mindset where camaraderie is actually a big thing with rural. Because I work blue collar jobs, I know I work a blue collar job right now. There's a lot of camaraderie, but when you look at like the Democrats, it's more like a corporate setting, and there's HR, and then there's generally bureaucracy and all that stuff. So you kind of get that kind of mindset of like how how they roll the government, where everyone's kind of really equal. But yeah.
Hold on, just housekeeping. I'll be reading super chats in about 10 minutes.
Okay.
So keep sending me your money, gang. Keep giving me all your money.
Yeah, send them all the money.
Also,
Make 'em rich.
me,
The more
chat.
money you give, the more masculine you are, young men. Okay, the more ladies you will get. If the $10 super chat, that's one date. A $50 super chat, that's first base. Okay, $100, you go all the way.
Really
Anyway, go
quickly,
ahead.
really quickly. One, the idea of why feminism is good for men is because the base concept is the idea of patriarchy means that men are
It holds them
responsible.
accountable.
No, it's not that. It's that men are
men
responsible
hold
for
men
all of
accountable as
these.
it is.
Shut the fuck up for 10 seconds. I'm giving you a
Why you
definition.
tell me to shut up? He also.
Yeah, I'm telling you both. I'm telling all of you.
I'm sorry.
Everyone, shut up. Let Visora finish, but then
The
Visora shut up
patriarchy,
while you
I
go.
will.
Okay.
The patriarchy oppresses men just as much as women because men are now put in charge of having to do all of the work outside of the house. You're like, men have to go to work, they have to come home, they have to feed the family, they have to be able to afford this. If you can't afford food for your family, then you're a failure of a man. You have to go die in war. Like, all of this is patriarchy. Feminism just says none of this shit needs to be all on the man, and none of the house shit needs to be all on the women. We're all people. We can work this out amongst ourselves like regular people. Secondly, the other topic that you brought it to, Nasser, you're exactly right. And this is actually one of the things that I give the right props for. They have actual community. They speak to each other in person. They have the rural right-wing camaraderie comes from that sense of community, whereas America as a whole has gone too far
Almost
towards
viciously
hyper-individualism.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like, they can get that way, but the Democrats are also far too hyper-individualistic, as America is as a whole. It is a matter of not left and right here. That's a class distinction of up versus down. Ironically, it tends to be some of the poor in rural areas who actually have formed community, and it is more people need to form community as you get poorer, because community is how we've gotten through hard times for like all of human history. So
Visora, I want to give Visora, can I give Visora an example though? Because I want her to understand this, because she's not doing this, and this is like an example of like how we should be doing it.
Please.
So like when someone says, "Hey, I think feminism is like this man-hating, dividing ideology," and you give a very nuanced explanation right that is exactly how you have to talk to people. Although maybe less condescending. To be fair, I'm sure you wouldn't be talking to Zers in public like that. But like, it's a debate stage. I get it. But the problem is when you go into these college settings. Let's say I were to go up to a woman in a gender studies class. I've done this before. Not this specifically, but said something like, men have a disproportionate loss of children in divorce cases. And they'll say, instead of, which this is true, hey, there are reasons behind that, or this is why this is happening, or hey, that's actually part of the patriarchy, and explaining it, it's just, that's not as important right now. And it's not. It's true. What they're saying is true. It's much less of a big topic, but the perception is just this immediate rejection and this pushing away from a man's problem, which is a thing that
we need to work.
See.
I think as men, we need to work to reframe that to generally these issues are just as important.
Just real quick, I'm going to let Cersei go right after this, because he deserves to go right after this.
And I just wanted to say this is the exact same thing, and I think this is a terrible. Can I finish?
This idea that you just said, like you just said it in this conversation, that they say it's not that important. It's not as important right now, and it's not as important right now. Is one of the reasons that mindset is one of the reasons that we're struggling.
Yeah,
Is
no,
because
I'm agreeing. I am saying
they
that. Like,
accurately, the young men today accurately intuit that for Democrats, not all of them, but for Democrats, they are just not as important right now.
right. So that messaging is bad. And I wanted to give a very, I think, hitting home example. I think everyone has seen this before. When Democrats or anyone has talked about affirmative action and said the word white privilege, right? You say, well, why? You're a young white male and you don't understand the history of all of this stuff. And you say, why are all these people getting this advantage over me? And someone comes up to you like, you don't get it. You don't understand. They're right. Their frustration's correct. It's not ahistorical. It's based in decades of oppression. But explaining that to someone is very difficult. And instead of doing that, they just say, oh, you don't get that because you're privileged. And you just completely dismiss them. And that drives them to the right, who just have these false arguments that, hey, oh, cool. Being white is awesome. Come over here and we'll give you benefits. We'll have an all white scholarship.
Look,
or whatever the frick.
If
like
someone
Donald Trump's
asked me
trying
to
do.
explain
It's a messaging
affirmative
thing.
action to them, all I would say is that's the reason why Biden became VP under Obama. That's what affirmative action is.
Right.
Because
but
that
again,
way
this
it
is
also
your smart and
shows
nuanced, but
that
Democrats aren't.
No, I know. But like doing it this way, like as an example, saying, oh yeah, if someone's like, what's DEI or what's affirmative action? You say, oh, that's the reason Biden was VP under Obama. It also adds in the fact that men do benefit from DEI and so do white people. In fact, white women were the highest recipients of DEI grants, but like still, it is, to be fair, I was also against affirmative action.
Wait, white women?
Yes, white women were the primary, yeah.
Action, yeah.
They
What
got
a
it.
hilarious failure of that concept, eh?
Well,
Well, women are.
Come on, but guys, like you would have
you
to
gotta let
understand.
it is Xerxes' turn, so Xerxes, go ahead.
Like you
and then
would
5
have to
minutes in super
understand,
chat. So yeah.
which kind of sucks, actually. I think that like if this policy ultimately ended up helping a bunch of white women out, no offense, but young men are going to be able to see that they're not getting the. And I'm not even going to say preferential treatment. They're not getting the so-called privileges of being a male that is constantly berated and bombarded at them. But then you, again, just as far as optics are concerned, you're seeing another party, or even if it isn't a party, another social sphere that is saying it's all right for you to be a male. It's a good thing you're a male. You should be a male. And here are all your different positive attributes. It makes sense that, let's just talk about custody, for example. I think it's important that Wick pointed it out, because the framing is saying that we don't care if you don't get to see your children. Well, if a man who cares about his children are being told by one political party that's not important right now, why should he support them? Why should he want to go over there and help them out if he cares about his family, which is the actual direct, close people?
I have a really wait. Hold on. I have an actual question.
Why he would even think that way?
I have an actual question.
It doesn't matter what they're doing. You keep doing tit for tat. It doesn't matter. I don't even know.
But they're not doing anything either, though.
I've got a negative versus a neutral.
I have a neutral question. Mine's neutral.
Yeah, you can ask after he's finished. Xerxes, finish your thing, and then.
So to land the plane here, and I would like her question. It's like, no matter how we cut the cookie of whether or not, or the tit for tat of what are the Republicans actually doing, I give the ghost. It doesn't matter what they're doing. What young men are seeing is a political party that does not care about them, and sometimes actively has a disdain for different qualities that are inherent to them. I think like white people or young white men, I think it makes sense for them to look at any DEI, and be like, well,
you are speaking
hold on.
for
I
all
wasn't
the white
an
men
oppressor.
Right now. I give you.
Well, think about it, and I'll give them this one because it's important. It's like, okay, you explain diversity to me because of the history of oppression. I live in a trailer park. What I got to do with me? That's fair for a white person or a young white man to be like, I don't have this power you're proclaiming I have. I don't have this experience. So it's like, why am I being punished for something over here? Why am I being told to eat shit over here when I had nothing to do with me? That's an important thing that needs to be asked and discussed. Who actually says we're going to help you out?
Okay.
That's the issue.
We'll get to it. We'll get to it. I got to get to super chats. I got to make a little money. This is my bread and butter. And then after that, Visora will ask her question and we'll move on from there. Cool. Good. Great. Let's get me some money. Okay. $2 from Cameraman 502. Men relate shoulder to shoulder. Thank you for the $2. $5 from Joe the Mig. Equating the basic responsibilities of protecting your family and earning money to care for them with a system of oppression is a genuine psychosis. Thank you for the $5. $10 from Miles Kinslow. Democrats have not only abandoned positive masculinity, but have embraced toxic female behaviors, victim mentality, manipulation, patronization, etc. Thank you for the $10. JMac, thank you for the gifted 50 gifted WIC memberships. Welcome to the show. Really appreciate you. $2 from Joe the Mig. Are we pretending fourth wave feminism doesn't exist? $5 from Joe the Mig. Democrats do care about men, quote unquote, from the party that, through policy, has crippled the development of men and boys in K through 12 and higher education. $2 from Feder Methodist. I got nothing. Your panel is answer enough. Thank you for the $2. $5 from Old School. I've generally seen more women in the stat classes I teach. I generally see more men in the linear algebra calculus classes I teach. But math is masculine. $5 from Two Links. To the ones who believe in toxic masculinity. Oh, I'm just going to get through these real quick.
Sorry.
To the ones who believe in toxic masculinity, one challenge. Name an inherently male trait that can't be applied to women that is positive. That'll be something we can do after I get through these. £10 from Jacob Buckingham. Oh, Buckingham, very British name. America thinks masculinity is Hulk Hogan. Britain thinks it's Winston Churchill. Be more like Britain. Thank you for that £10. And then finally, $5 from Testicle Johnson. Dems clearly have a masculinity problem. Instead of learning to change a tire or lifting weights, they play Dungeons and Dragons and hand paint Warhammer 40,000 dolls.
Ooh, Colin,
Well,
That's masculine.
Okay, I have some.
Yeah, those are still masculine
I have some
activities.
real
Everyone's
fucking.
more mad about that
Hold on.
last comment than anything else. But yeah.
But it will-
They're attacking him.
There
That's
is.
what that's happening.
No, hold on. Visora had a question, and I want to let her give her space to answer that. To ask that question.
Like,
Go ahead.
honestly, I forgot my question at this point, but I've got like several other points that came up in that time span. One being an answer to the question of name a trait. There is no inherent trait that belongs to any. Like humans aren't inherently anything besides social.
Well, can I
Everything
ask you
else
a
is
question?
socially learned.
Can I ask you a
Yeah,
question?
go for it, please.
Do you have a concept of toxic femininity?
Yes.
Like, could you lay out or dissertate? What would that look like? Just real fast.
I can like systemic or interpersonal because they'd be different. But
Let's
like,
go with interpersonal. Let's just
Okay.
go with that.
well, I mean, there's plenty of like women that also abuse their boyfriends and then like pretend that they're the ones being abused. That happens, not often, like enough that it is
So they
overtaking
call
the
it,
other.
like Darvo? What they
Like
call it?
it's not
My
the.
anecdotal version of that.
But
I have a
that
good one for
exists.
you.
Anecdotal
That
version of-
exists. There's also the type of person.
Can I-
Hold on, because I just want one more because this one's really important. This one pisses me off
go
that
ahead.
when people
I
do
want
it.
to talk about women.
It's when it's like I've seen a lot of women do this when they do something as a mistake in general, just like an accident. I've seen a lot of women go, "Oh well, I'm just a girl," and that pisses me
They
off.
infantilize themselves?
Yeah, the
So
infantilization.
then, could you define
Competence.
toxic masculinity?
uh,
Just real fast.
It's when you do something that has a negative effect on the people around you or yourself in trying to embody traditionally masculine ideals. In the same way,
I mean, that's the smart
what
answer.
you just said for femininity was perfect. It was, hey, sometimes people see femininity as being servile or like, a little more like weak or like, hey, subservient. And in doing so, like diminish themselves and like, oh, I'm just a dumb woman, right? In the same way, the example I was going to give is, woman
No, I have one
embodied this
final question.
effeminate.
I have
real
one
quick
final
before-
answer,
No,
too.
Women
I
embody
still
this
have an
effeminate
answer.
Soy
energy.
Pill, hold on. I'm going to give
But
Soy
my
Pill the
final-
space to denigrate women. Soy Pill, go ahead.
Right. So like
The
women,
final question puts it all
traditionally try
together,
to
but go ahead.
crash that plane, man. Okay, so women traditionally try to like make themselves look better with makeup or dresses, and that's like a feminine trait. There's nothing wrong with that inherently, but a toxic feminine trait would be, hey, in order to make myself look better, I'm going to demean, degrade, or otherwise do something mean to some other woman so that I look good in comparison. This is toxic femininity, right? So it's just not. It's not
I have an
masculinity is
add-in.
bad.
I have an
femininity
add-in.
is bad.
I have an add-in because it's not just making other people's lives more miserable, it's also making your own lives miserable. I covered this on my stream
I
last
could as
week
well,
of
yeah, I
watching
agree.
Jesse Waters talking about how he has 3 rules for men. One being
soup.
no soup in public, no crossing your legs, and no drinking out of a straw, to which someone was like, oh, but he was drinking a milkshake, to which Jesse Waters replies, well, you shouldn't be drinking milkshakes. Milkshakes
Yeah,
are
that's
for
gay.
kids.
Yeah,
That is
the modern standards.
unironically, this is
like,
both gender ideology
pop
and
men
mental
culture.
illness. That's toxic masculinity. Honestly, I would go further and say the push to return to family values is toxic gender ideology. Period. Like, it's not just
Hold on.
one or the other.
No.
No. Not the idea
I
of
wouldn't
family
even agree with
values.
that.
I mean
Let her
the
explain.
the media push for this, not the idea of like traditional family values. Those aren't toxic in and of themselves. It's the coordinated campaign of this is the right way to be, the Christian traditional family values that need to be
the nuclear.
Yeah, like the current administration's nuclear.
The toxic nuclear.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
see,
the
even that,
toxicity.
Visora, if you say that, you've just
I
alienated
disagree
so
with
many
this
people who
entirely.
I don't
have
care about
healthy
alienating the
mindset.
right, to be honest. Like, I'm never trying to
Well, okay,
message
well,
to
let's
MAGA.
keep fucking
No, hold
losing, I
on.
guess.
If I may.
No,
But
because
that's the
wait,
whole point of this
hold
debate.
on. 84 million Americans didn't vote. More than half the country did not vote. I worry about
and these
messaging
people
to
who aren't
them
as clued in
over
as
MAGA.
you and aren't as smart as you hear that and they're like, "What? You don't like a nuclear family?" Because they don't understand what you're saying. So you can't come out with that. That messaging is bad, unfortunately. Even though you're right, it's bad messaging.
No,
Do you
she's
think
not.
that I
Hold
would
on.
message it?
Yeah.
Do you think that I would be
Okay.
messaging it like
Okay.
this if I was trying to
Okay.
do propaganda?
Enough.
If I was Ben
Enough.
Shapiro, I would clip what you just said and
Enough,
blast
because
it
this is
everywhere.
important.
Please do.
This is important. This has to be
I
said.
won't,
If I may.
'cause I'm not
like-
Ow!
Go.
Oh my
You're
God! You
right-winger,
guys
but-
just keep talking, and is this on?
We have so
Hello?
much
Can
to
you hear
say.
me? Hello? Hello? Is this on? Okay.
I think
It's
you're
not
muted,
just bad
Wick.
messaging. That's funny. The idea that you are telling people that the idea of having family values is bad, or at
Or
least
toxic.
is toxic
See,
because
right there.
Again, this is shadow boxing.
If I may finish,
It's
if
just
I
shadow
may
boxing,
finish,
but okay.
right? I'm not shadow boxing because what you said in your comment was it creates this toxic normativity that this is how people should be.
That's not what I
And
said.
here's the problem: is that most people, especially young men, they want a family.
Wick, you're
That's
proving
not
it
what I
wrong.
said. That's not what I
Sorry, do you-
said.
Yeah, but that
Viz,
is
but
the
you
implication.
totally
you-
got it
You
wrong.
use the
often
you
term
didn't explain it
toxic.
right.
Hold on. Toxic, just as its connotation. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
It's a bad thing.
Thank you. All right. So, what are you implying when you say that sentence? What do people hear?
I'm
Socially,
saying
what are they
Wait,
hearing?
Zers, do
I
you know what an
literally
adjective is
said
first?
that the
I know exactly what
traditional
adjective is.
family
Yeah, it's a
values
descriptive
in and
word.
of themselves are not negative. It's the media
else did you say?
campaign
but
push for them.
you need to make it dumber.
Yes,
Yes, you need to make it stupider. Be stupider.
Okay,
Say it to me like
okay.
I'm
Let me
right now.
let me bring this down to the MAGA level. Family good,
Republican.
Republican bad, Andrew Tate
Oh,
bad,
all right,
Donald
all
Trump
right,
bad,
You also
family
have
good.
to, but you wait a minute, Viz, but you also have to olive branch, because if you keep harping on just like the one aspect of it, and you alienate so
Education
many
Republican
people,
as
so
well.
you just gotta work on olive branching your
Look,
messaging.
realistically,
and I think that's what Democrats really need to do.
No.
They need to work on messaging.
hold on.
that
Democrats need to
olive
focus on
branches
substance.
are right in a way.
Xerxes had one more question. He said
unfortunately.
he had one more question that he says will tie it
Okay.
all together, and we'll give him
Honestly,
the
there's
space
more.
to do it. So go ahead. You had one more question.
So the
tie
one
it together.
final question, the tie it all together, is why is it that there's more of a stronger focus on toxic masculinity than toxic femininity? Why is it that we
Because
critically
men do-
focus on
When
men?
women
Why
are
do you think
toxic,
this
they
is?
make a man cry. When men get toxic and mad about their masculinity, they shoot up a building. When's the last time?
Bingo.
Okay, name me a
And
female
that's
mass
what
shooter.
women hear.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh my
Okay,
God.
great.
Like
So
the
what?
very-
It's true. It's literally true. It's not my problem.
He doesn't get it.
But that's
What are you talking
extreme.
about?
No.
It's
no,
not
hold on.
extreme. It
So-
happens
hold on,
literally
hold on,
every
hold on.
day.
Prime. Let's give it to Prime. Prime.
I
Prime.
didn't
Oh,
even
I'm
have
sorry.
to try.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I
hold
can't
on.
point out the fact that men keep shooting up
Visora,
buildings when women don't. Name me a woman mass shooter. Find me one.
Visora, please.
Sure, there was a woman who
Yeah,
shot up a school
yeah,
the
we
other
do
day,
have
like a couple
female
months
shooters,
ago.
very
There was
rare.
two actually,
But-
two recently.
Yeah,
doesn't
but they're
matter.
quite rare.
Yeah, but men are better at it.
Sure, they are
quite
rare. Yes. But go ahead.
But anyway, but like to her point, right? Like it's not simply like mass shooter, right? Like when men grow up in a world that like tells them that they have to deny their emotions, right? They can't actually cry, they can't show themselves, they can't share themselves with their partner. When that is like the form of masculinity that's pushed, right? Then these emotions get bottled up, and then they act out in horrible ways. So like, yeah, of course, mass shooter, but like in a more tangible sense, domestic violence is a real thing.
Bruh,
Right, we
half
can
the time
understand
I'm
this.
saying
That's
begin to
why
make
we
it
should just
dumber.
hold those people
But
accountable.
y'all are telling me to get it
I'm trying to
dumber.
help you out.
I know.
Visora, please.
But why?
Let
No,
Prime finish. Let
no,
Prime
you're
finish.
right.
Finish
No,
helping you.
I'm curious
Let me
why.
stop talking.
Why can you
Stop
get to
talking.
go into
Stop talking.
nuance? Why do you get to do nuance and I have to
my
dumb
God.
it
Because
down?
you won't go into nuance.
He literally
Black
is.
lives
He
matter.
is agreeing
Black
with
lives
me.
matter.
He is
Black
correct.
lives matter.
He he's saying the nuance part that I would have said if y'all didn't keep saying that I need to dumb it down. I'm agreeing with you, Prime. I just don't understand why you get to say
I
it.
think you're proving the point.
It doesn't matter. The point is
It's
yours
because,
isn't gonna get it.
because of my black privilege. So
Wait, right there. No, wait, Prime. That's a perfect example.
I think
If
Prime
Zeus
is
asks you why doesn't black privilege exist?
Just wrap it up very
It does.
quickly. Yeah, just wrap it very quickly. That so we have like domestic violence. We have I don't know, these general attitudes towards women, I think actually also are part of it, right? Like this general disdain for women, to think that women are like conniving, controlling. I think these are
where would that come from?
signs that we're cultivating a masculinity that's not actually in harmony with the things around it, right? So that's not femininity. That it's in opposition when it doesn't have to be in opposition. So when we talk about like the consequences of toxic masculinity versus femininity, right? Usually like the worst of it is life and death, right? And the rest of it is like literally making the lives of the women around, like subjugating the women around them. Like, so like it tends to be from what I see. And you can maybe give me examples where it's more the other way,
give you
right?
I can.
Okay, please. So like you can maybe give me examples more the other way, but it seems to be that on whole that the consequences are disastrous for toxic masculinity in a way it's not the other way around.
Well, here's the thing. Let's give you an example, right? Let's talk about true cuckoldry. And that is to say, when a young lady is no, this is important. This is real people's lives. You can't laugh. Seriously.
Don't Republicans call you like Donald Trump daddy?
Hold on.
Let him speak.
They do. Hold on.
I want to hear
That's
about
why I
the
said true
cuckoldry. Go ahead. The true cuckoldry. The cuckoldry
which is to say,
extends beyond the normal false cuckoldry to the
yes, exactly.
Let him talk.
And let me explain.
Yeah, I want to hear. I want to hear.
Important concept. Because what an actual cuckolding situation is when an organism, in this case, we're going to talk about, women, gets impregnated by a different person, and then they have their husband or their boyfriend raise a child that is not theirs. This is a serious issue that can affect the child medically, as in they can't even get the correct blood transfusion from their father because it's not their real father. This is an issue that affects young men directly because they're investing resources in children that aren't theirs. This affects them in custody. So when we look at this and we talk about toxic femininity, we talk about the deception of lying and having someone invest resources in a child that's not theirs for years, this may not be life or death, but this is years of emotional trauma that you're giving to a child and to a father, would-be father, to said child.
And how often does the opposite of this happen?
Hold on, you asked for an example. Hold on. You asked for an example, and I'm giving you an example of what I would see as toxic femininity. And this is the problem. But this is the problem. You disregard the lifetime. Even if it is a minority, you are quick to disregard the life that a person and a child would be living through that experience.
I'm not disregarding. Okay, so that sounds bad, and I can imagine that'd be awful.
You can't say,
right?
see, you're still disregarding it.
Stop trying to read my emotions. I'm just trying to respond to you. So, my simple question to you is, right, like, okay, acknowledging your cuckoldry, right, which are things that are on your mind, acknowledging that, right, and then stacking that up against domestic violence, against not just domestic violence, but the general sexual violence directed towards women. In your opinion, I'm asking you, are these two things equal? Is that how you see it in your mind?
No, not necessarily equal. I think that's foolish to look at every single question as whether it's equal or not. The question is, why do we disregard this behavior so quickly? And the reason why I'm looking at this is because we're not taking the emotional damage that happens to males very seriously, but there's another side that is.
I will agree to
and
that.
that's the right-leaning side that's taking it seriously.
Or at least it has the appearance of campaign.
Hold on, wait. I want to ask a question to Xerxes' point.
If you're going to start the Xerxes machine, he's the Overton window.
He just made a claim. I know, but he made a claim, and I want him to back it up.
Okay, let's give it to Soy. Hasn't gone in a while. Let's give it to Soy first, then Visora. That's the order we're going to go in.
This all spawned off of this very silly false dichotomy that yes, obviously there are men's problems that need to be addressed, and in rejecting those, this is what I said at the beginning. If your messaging is that's not important right now, even if that's true, and it is true to a degree, it's not. It's going to alienate a whole shitload of people. The problem is that
I do it?
toxic. One second, let me finish. The toxic masculinity and toxic femininity are both existing things. They're not the same thing. In the same way, white privilege and black privilege probably both exist, and they're not the same thing, right? Like the problem is the framing of this as, oh well, why are we talking about this and not this? Because a bunch of people have this ahistorical take on it, and unfortunately, if you explain it to them like this, if I was talking to a layman, they would be completely lost. They'd be like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm a white guy in a trailer park. What the fuck do you mean I have white privilege? So you can't come at it like that. You can't come at it as you have this positive and somehow like explain this in a systemic sense, because right now everyone's trying to explain to you the difference between toxic, masculinity and femininity, and it's not working because unfortunately you have a very narrow scope of these things. We need to talk about these dumber. I'm sorry.
Well, ironically, no. The problem isn't that it's not working. The problem is that
fast. Before you answer Visora,
okay, go ahead.
Answer them both.
What has
when
the
Visora gives you
Republican
your
Party
question.
functionally done to show men that they care about them in any
I'll
way?
give you
They don't have
nothing.
to do anything.
Nothing. It doesn't change the core of my argument. You do understand that, right?
I do, but you're
Okay,
not
thank
getting
you. So
my
as long as you
argument.
understand that.
Is that the entire delusion here is that the Democrats hate men, and it's an entire delusion manufactured and sold to specifically
because
the right.
when I just gave you an example of how toxic femininity, lies and deception can destroy the life of a man and a child, you disregarded it offhand.
Literally
In fact,
not at all.
Even Prime.
I didn't. Wait, hold the fuck up. You're saying that I disregarded this shit. That's a lie. You're lying.
There's so many.
He was talking to me first. He was talking to me. He said you. But then let me take that a step further. Let me take that a step further. That's real. Okay? But how often is that happening versus how often?
What difference does it make?
It makes a difference in scale.
How?
Because numbers of people suffering from... Like, are you retarded, mate? Can you not understand scale of numbers? Population
if one person was cuckolded, we say that's one relative to 1 million people.
Sure.
Right? The problem is that's still a human being that has lived a life.
What is this?
Now, what is this? What I'm saying,
literally,
is
you
when we
people
bring up
cuck
these
yourselves.
male issues. You say literally, what is this? When we bring up male issues,
Can we
again,
get
in
the
real
kink
time,
stuff
I'm
out
showing
of
you
this
guys.
topic? I don't
we're
care about
playing
this
tit for
kink
tat.
bullshit.
We're
I don't
playing
care about
tit
the
for
kink
tat,
bullshit.
and you're
You want to
disregarding
know
it.
how the Democrats are going to
But
win?
it's not a
By
kink.
disregarding
Listen,
idiots
look
like
in
this
the
one.
mirror.
No, fuck
Look
you.
in the mirror.
Disregarding
Stop,
Xerx is how
stop,
Democrats
stop.
win. The argument here is Democrats win through substance. Unions, jobs, climate. That's what people care about.
I really don't. On the core issue, I feel like Democrats would handle this issue just the same way Republicans would handle this issue. Generally, by letting the person that wants to take care of the child take care of the child. A lot of when we're doing the single father, it depends on how the court works.
My dad and my mom got divorced, and my dad got custody.
Yeah, and it depends on how much that father wants to interact with that child, and what the stepfather wants to do to interact with that child. I mean, sometimes it works out. Sometimes, I mean, the black community has a father problem. Like, we're not gonna acknowledge that at all.
Well, actually, it doesn't.
I don't think it does.
That does beyond the scope of.
Maybe we should ask why. Maybe we can ask why that's an issue.
Oh, the why is the men women are choosing. Is that what you want to hear?
No,
is that the one?
That's not
are you ready
why.
for that conversation.
No, that's,
I don't. What would our? Let me
You're not ready for that
explain that.
conversation.
Yeah,
Explain it.
please.
Explain what. The caliber
the-
of individuals that young ladies are choosing to reproduce with. Explain the
That's
issue
why-
that we're not
that's
focusing
why there's
on.
no dad.
Men that are rearing
Stop
children.
taking the Xerx bait. I don't want to have the freaking.
Are we taking? Are you incel pill? Or is that what you're telling me? Are you secretly
Yes,
incel
yes,
pill?
yes.
Let me try to
talking
retrack us. Let me try to rerail us. Right. Let me try to kind of direct the conversation just a smidge.
Every time.
Okay. Right. So Visora, you've made it clear that you think that by focusing on substance such as unions, such as the economy, such as jobs, this will naturally bring men healthcare.
Yeah, I think all of it together will bring men.
It will bring
over.
men back. However, has that not been what the Democrats have been focusing on?
No.
Thank you.
No,
Not at all.
How is it not? What have they been focusing on?
Focusing on?
How have they done? Like, what were they focusing? What
Yeah, in
were they
way have they
focusing
been
on?
doing populist like policies in the
Yeah.
last election?
Bernie
Like,
Sanders, for example, who is
Bernie
he's not a
Sanders is
Democrat,
not-
but
He's
he's
not
Bernie
right
Sanders is
now.
not a Democrat.
He's not
Okay,
our
but he
president.
caucuses with the Democrats.
Yeah,
No,
I mean,
but
he's the only. You know what? AOC
but the Democratic
and
Party-
Bernie
the
Sanders are the only
AOC,
Democrats that
AOC is a
exist right
Democrat.
now to me. As
Yeah,
far as everyone
yeah,
else,
but-
there is no
but they-
Democratic Party except those two people.
Can we take this
Yeah,
back? Wait,
unfortunately, like,
let's take this
AOC
back.
And Bernie Sanders don't actually represent the mainstream of the Democratic Party.
No.
I wish they did,
Yeah.
and then we can make that argument.
There is no
They don't.
Democratic Party.
Yeah.
Those are the only two
Exactly.
Democrats that exist right now
Exactly.
because they're the only ones that are doing anything actionable.
Well, Chris
literally,
Murphy's
the Democrats
alright.
have moved to let them do it.
The
Policies.
Democrat, it's
There is no
uniparty shit.
Democratic
It's
Party to me.
uniparty shit.
Yeah.
It's just uniparty shit. There's AOC, there's Bernie.
But that's another issue.
Yeah, that is a whole other issue.
Other issue.
But let's take this back to pre-election for a second, just so we can have like a clear basis of like people that we're talking about, right? Kamala Harris's campaign did not do any kind of populist rhetoric, did not do any kind of identity politics either, didn't mention anything like
It
that.
only talked about reinforcing the protection of abortion, which I don't see why males
yes,
would
that
be
was the
would be
only
fond of that.
identity politics, which came from the immediate revocation of Roe v. Wade, which was very popular, by the way. But they didn't do
very-
anything
very
else.
popular.
They didn't do any other type
Well,
of
why would-
identity
why would
politics.
that appeal
They
to
weren't
young
talking
men,
about.
though? Why would
Abortion is an identity.
Well, think
politics.
about it.
Well, why
Push
wouldn't
back.
it appeal to men?
Even if it isn't,
Hold on.
why
Why
would
wouldn't
a young
it?
man
Wait.
that wants a family?
Hold on.
I'll
You
tell
guys
you.
are
I'll
all-
tell
you're
you.
all
Let me
kind of
answer
talking-
your question. Why wouldn't they? If abortion rights also fall into miscarriages, why would you want, let's say your
Except it
wife
wouldn't. A
who is
miscarriage isn't an
let's say
abortion.
your wife is pregnant and she has a life-threatening pregnancy, like they need to abort the baby or your wife's gonna die. That affects you, does it not?
Yeah, but I mean, I would have
I
no
could just
say
get
over it
another wife?
regardless, remember? Because I'm a male.
No, I feel like if it's your wife and they're dying, you do get to have a say in, hey, honey, I really think you should
That's
get this
the worst I've
abortion
ever
so
heard
you
in
don't
any
die.
person.
Hold on.
That's
Maybe
the
you
first
should
time I've
speak
ever
to
heard
some
anyone
women
say
more
a
often then.
Rewind,
Would have a
rewind,
say
because I think
over
we're missing it.
abortion.
I don't know,
think we're
maybe you
missing
should
it.
speak
We're
to some
talking
women.
specifically. We're talking about.
I am. I'm talking to you right now.
Yeah.
Hold on. We're talking
And you're
about
learning.
specifically young men. We're talking about specifically young men who are
Okay.
generally unmarried.
What has the what did the Democrats do for young men? As we said earlier, canceling student loan debt, economic help was
But they
good.
didn't.
They did. Biden did cancel student loan debt for quite a lot of
That
people.
thing got held up in the Supreme
but it
Court by
literally
for
got
how
stuck in
long?
court.
Well, it
Yeah.
got overturned by Donald Trump. The courts were fine.
No, it didn't.
It passed the courts. No, it did.
He could honestly.
He could have kept
Biden
it,
could have
yeah.
did an executive order and generally made it
Well,
more
he could have kept
forceful,
it.
This
but he
is
chose
another
not
thing.
to because he knew it'd be stuck in
Initially,
like
the
court
way
litigation.
initially Biden tried to forgive
Yeah.
student loan debt was struck down by the
Yeah.
Supreme Court, but then he went back, he tailored it to a more narrow focus that applied more narrowly, and he was able to get it through.
That's
That
how it
is
works.
But
what
aside
happened when
from
it
that,
comes
there
but
was the
again,
child
it's
tax
another-
credit as
But now it's gone, so it doesn't matter.
well, I mean, we were talking about what Democrats did. Democrats they don't exist anymore. There's no Democrats policy, so we have to talk in
There's
the
the housing
past.
policy. That was a kind of populist.
housing-
Of course, they barely talked about
Yeah,
it. but-
they didn't go anywhere near far enough on the substance because they're liberals and they don't believe in going that far on the substance. The Democratic Party that existed, the establishment, they didn't want power. They just want to critique power.
You know what's funny is that Trump wasn't the first influencer president. It was Obama that was the first influencer president. He greatly used Twitter to his advantage, and he greatly used social media. And somehow along the lines, the Democrats had never grew with that for some reason. They kind of sat on their laurels and kind of ignored things and thought the status quo would be enough. And unfortunately, that isn't the case. We are now in clout culture, which is generally hyper. I saw a video of Xerxes, the hyper agency one, and that's a big deal. I think a lot of a lot of the red pill speaks to men. Eventually, they will grow out of that because red pill is one step from being gay, in my opinion. And
How does that make sense?
Well, because
One step
literally
from being a
men being
homosexual?
This isn't a red pill debate. We're
men
not
being
doing the red
around
pill
other
shit
men.
today.
Wait, Wick, it's actually
boys will be
incredibly relevant, though.
boys.
I'm happy someone finally brought this back to the substance of the debate, which is why is red pill growing so much right now? And it's not because no, the right wing is so good, or this is like this hyper interesting actual ideology. It's because the Democrats don't address these very niche things.
Yeah, but then
about
they get
men
fucked,
coming
and
of
then
age.
they realize that
It
they
doesn't
don't need to
matter.
be red pill
I think the
anymore.
red pill's dog shit. I think all of these right wing things are dog shit. But the point is, the choices between nothing and negative on the Democratic side, especially on the dismiss men's issues, all the way to, hey, I'm totally listening to you, and then here's this dipshit ideology. But unfortunately, that's the only route they can get. So that's why you have all these people following an Andrew Tate, a Sneeko, and all these things. And the problem is the Democrats currently do not have an answer to that because, like I said, they have the Visora message, which again is too smart. Unfortunately, it's, hey, these things are not nearly that important right now. We're talking about, the
Well, they are
dominance of men
important.
in the culture. They're not important. Let me finish.
It is important to these men.
I'm not saying
it's only the red pill leaning towards the politics, not the other way around. The politics aren't leaning towards the red pill.
It unfortunately is. If you look at the growing movement, and Zers, if Donald Trump went up and said, "Hey, there's this man in Mississippi, and he wants to turn into a walrus, and I think we should donate 10 trillion of the
red pill will eventually die,
making this guy turn into a fucking walrus,"
become something else.
Would you say, if I said, "Hey, that's not really important right now," would you? Well, he's a man and he deserves empathy. What do you mean? It's his issue. He cares. It's about curtailing voters. And unfortunately, men are a big voting bloc, and we do need to appeal to them.
It's not the same thing to talking about custody rights, which is a legitimate issue. We did bring up and we did confirm and say, quote unquote.
I'll give you a legitimate
right now.
Hold on, stop.
Most
I'll give you
people
a
work custody
legitimate
rights
issue that I
evenly.
think the right has been better on than the left when it comes to men. Title IX protections for men who are accused of sexual assault in college campuses, right? One of the things that Biden did that I was against was he lifted the requirement of the what was the standard of proving your case, and he lowered that to make it so that men or anyone really accused of sexually assault on campus was giving less access to due process.
Donald
right?
Trump
Much
did
less
this
access.
for high schools, middle schools, and elementary schools. Like literally did this year.
However, Trump reversed that for Title IX on college campuses, right? Where he reinstated the standard that provided. Hold on. He reinstated the standards of proof, the burdens of proof that were put on the accusers in college campuses. One of the things that happened a lot during like the Me Too era and before even was that men would get accused on college and they would have no chance to defend themselves and they would get kicked out, and it would later find out, right? What was that? I forget her name, but recently you remember the Duke case in colleges, like the Duke. That was the lady came out and says, "I just made that up." Like 20 years later, she not 20 years later, but she recently came out. Oh, I just made it up. But those people, those men got shafted, right? They got kicked out of their college. It was terrible. It was terrible.
But this is a perfect example, Wick, right? Like first, I'm going to start off, and this is my triggers. Please don't interrupt me. I promise I'm going to elaborate on this. This is a very small issue of men being accused of rape. However, a very important one, right? You don't want to be falsely accused of rape and get punished for that. And so, if you message, hey guys, we're caring about this. We don't want you to go to jail for something that is unjust. Suddenly, you've now just won over the entire swath of men, whereas the Democrats say, rightly, but in a bad way, what is this, like, 10 people per college or less every 4 years?
Wait,
it doesn't matter if that's the case.
No, stop. Soy Pill. Everyone shut up right now. Soy Pill, you're making the same argument that the people who are complaining, like I've complained, like, hey, they're deporting immigrants right now with no due process. And it's just a few of them. It doesn't matter.
It's also literally the same argument.
You're making
You're right.
now.
No, Wick, no. You're right. Because it's the same argument on top of that, of like trans people in sports. And everyone's like, well, there's like 4 trans people in the country that play sports. True. Okay, that's not in and of itself huge. But the issue isn't them actually playing sports. It's capitulating to the right-wing narrative even a little bit. Don't capitulate even a tiny bit because they're wrong and they're stupid. Yes, I'm too smart. They're too dumb to understand it. You have to up their level of intelligence.
Either,
I'm sorry, but that's the only way.
That was not my counter to Wick. It's understandable that it's like, hey, there's a big difference between violating someone's rights and getting rid of a due process and getting someone kicked out. This is not good. I'm not saying we shouldn't address this. I'm saying that the framing of this right now is immediately what I said, and you got mad. This is just proving my point in real time, because I would not be saying this on a much larger public platform if I was a politician. I wouldn't say, hey, but it's only 10. Who gives a shit? This is a very important thing. But when Democrats do that, what happens is what you did. Is you say, what the fuck? This is a big deal. What do you mean? And it it's a big deal to the people it affects, and morally, it doesn't matter how many people it affects. It matters morally how am I addressing this injustice. So you have to talk about it, and you have.
I think this has affected more people than you understand, right? Because it's not
Vic,
only.
I am agreeing with you. The reason I started off this sentence with "this is going to make some people mad" is because I said the truth, which is this doesn't affect a lot of people. And the reason I said that was to illustrate that in saying something that is true, you're going to piss a lot of people off and alienate them away from your party and your messaging. And that's why you can't just say things that are true. You have to have better messaging. It's
not true. It's not true. The fact that this doesn't affect a lot of people.
Wick, do you think it affects more than 0.5% of the population?
Every single man.
What difference?
Do you think it affects more than 0.5%?
Whether or not they are accused or not.
I know.
I think Wick is getting at like the media presence of it.
My point is that it can affect any male, and that's why males care about this. They see an injustice, they don't like it, and you need to talk about this and address it. The reason I said it's not a big deal is to illustrate that in saying something that is technically true, it is not a big deal in terms of quantity. People will get mad at that, and you can't use that as your messaging. That was my point. That's why you're crashing out on me for saying it. But you just keep proving my point in real time. Every time we say something true that's bad messaging, you get mad about it. How many people does it affect? How many people does it affect?
Because what you are saying, and if you allow me to finish uninterrupted, I can explain to you why you're wrong. Okay, so what you are saying, or what you're trying to put forth, is that because only a few people actually have to go through the processes that are laid out in Title IX, that it doesn't actually affect the other people. And I reject that premise. I think that the premise is that every man who is in this culture, in this society that is going through these rules, it absolutely weighs on their mind. It worries them, it affects them, it changes their behavior, and it changes how they view not only the system, right, that they're in, but the people who are advocating for the different points of the system, and each other, and women as well.
Can we take
it becomes
that a step
an
further?
Adversarial thing.
Can we take that a step further?
Take it a step further.
No, because you're right, exactly right about this. But this affects not only not just men, not just women, but everybody. But take this and grow the problem now with how many people in America are afraid of just police action for speaking out for not liking something. Because now, you go to a protest at a Republican town hall. Yeah, and you get kicked out. They'll drag the woman out of her chair and they'll take her outside, but they'll do it to the men too. It doesn't matter. Right now, the bigger issue isn't who is more oppressed. We are all oppressed now, guys. We live under fascism.
It shouldn't be a versus issue.
Yeah, now we're talking about who's first in line for the camps right now. And I would rather talk about, how to get out of this issue. How to talk about real issues that affect everybody and also men. For example, if you're talking about masculinity, right? How masculine of a man are you going to feel like if your 14-year-old kid in Florida has to work the night shift because you can't afford food, and they lowered the working age so that 14-year-olds can work overnight now because all the illegal immigrants got deported, and now we need to fill those jobs. Do you feel like a manly father for your 14-year-old having to work overnight and not go to school the next day? Because if I was a father,
people actually might.
Yeah, well, those are shitty fathers.
Some rural,
they be shitty mothers too.
I worked when I was 14.
No. I know. Yeah. Working when you're 14 is not the issue. That's fine. I worked when I was 14. Yeah. I'm saying when your kid is forced to, you can't afford food for your family because otherwise, unless your kid works the overnight shift and doesn't go to school. That was the situation I laid out, which is not unreasonable for Florida. For many Floridians, millions of people there.
Let's give it to Xerxes for a minute, and then I want to give it to Prime, and we'll go on for there. I have a couple more super chats I want to get to too, but Xerxes.
All I was saying was that if we're talking about the perception of masculinity, and to Prime's extremely earlier point, we still haven't really truly defined it. Some people might honestly be like, this is just what men do. We work hard, we make sacrifices, we do what we got to do to make sure our family gets taken care of. That 14-year-old is just learning that lesson a lot younger. I mean, if we're talking about perception, some people they will just accept that.
I would call that toxic masculinity. That's what I would call toxic masculinity.
Yeah, I understand it. I think I understand what is trying to be articulated with toxic masculinity, but I think that the fact that we regard it as as if it is a code of conduct in and of itself is kind of a misunderstanding of like what we should even refer to masculine traits. Like the word itself really means things that are primarily found in males, right? You know, masculinity is more reflection of what is, not what ought. But we use these terms and these concepts as a sort of moral code or like some sort of like badge of honor we put on to bequeath the title of man to someone. I think that there's a lot of things wrong with that. The fact remains we do it, and so we operate in that framework. But in that way, I think when it comes to, again, toxic masculinity, there is a lot more nuance to the concept that's not given to, or a lot more nuance given to the idea of, like, just for example, working hard as a man. Like you say that's toxic masculinity, but another person is going to view that as a positivity. Like, I love my family, so I'm willing to work hard.
You're
for
actually
them,
right, and actually
there is that nuance in that concept, and I think that a lot of people, they don't hear that nuance when they hear toxic masculinity.
You're right. I've had this discussion with one of my chatters on stream, in that I said that the idea of you have to work for your family, like you are the one that has to provide, your wife stays at home, takes care of the kids. This is as much of an oppressive state on you as it would be on your wife, not even accounting for like whether the hypothetical wife wanted to be a stay-at-home mom or not. It is oppressive to you as the man of the house in this nuclear family setting to have.
But you see how there's a lack of nuance there.
No. Well, I am getting to the nuance, like why it's oppressive is the nuance.
Get the nuance.
It is oppressive because you are now expected as the sole bread earner of the house to provide, and if you fail, not whether you do or not, that pressure, that guillotine is hanging over your head. If I fail at providing for my family, then I'm a failure of a man. It is like, because that's the words that were used by the chatter, was if I failed to do this, I'd be a failure of a man. And I think that is you socially constructing a box for yourself that you have to fit into, and that's oppressive to you. All of this is made up. It's all made up.
But it might be made up, but it doesn't exist in isolation to relationships between men and women, right?
No, of course not.
Because for as much as there might be other men who might say you're less of a man, there are women who say, I don't want to engage with you sexually because you're not that category.
We're not talking about how other people view you. No,
because it doesn't.
No. You're right. Wait. Hold on. We're missing something. You're missing a bit.
Enough. You're all missing a bit. Okay. You're all missing a bit. We do have to get more people in on this discussion. It's gonna go. It's gonna be Xerxes, and I love you, Xerxes. I do.
I do have to go. I have to go pee for a second, so I'll be right back.
Okay.
I'll be gone for a second.
Then I'll save my time. We'll give it to Prime for a moment.
I hadn't actually raised my hand, but I will. No worries, friend. I should be the star any which way, so it makes sense. I guess what I want to put forth is that, like, I think the formulation of the question, the topic itself, is a bit off, and that, like, I don't think that Republicans like do much to necessarily like the Republican Party, right? The party apparatus actually does much to deal with this topic of masculinity, like at all, really. I don't think that's like a big thing within like their platform or what they push. And at the same time, to reflect that, I don't think the Democratic Party should be doing that as well. That's not where we look for politicians, right? We all had like trouble like talking about policies on both sides that actually address these things. But where this conversation is happening is on like conservative, like leaning influencers, right? It's an influencer space. So like on the right, they're having a lot more conversations about masculinity, manhood than we see on the liberal leaning side, right? The leftist side. And that's where it should go. And I think the distinction here is important, right? Because like it's different when you're asking a party apparatus to necessarily fund these things, to build these things out, rather than looking for like to support like grassroots influencers who are like coming up and like actually can genuinely speak to the audiences that we need to be spoken to.
But Prime, that's what the Democrats are doing, right? Like they fund, like I said, these Harry Siss and Dean Withers. Those are Democrat. I don't want to say Democrat operatives.
The DNC is not funding.
They're not parents.
So what they can do,
but they're promoting them, right? Like these are the people that are getting the most attention.
Okay, right, but that's a difference. That's also a difference too, right? So I think the best the party can do, and I think this is what happens on the Republican side, is that for these influencers, they can appear on their platforms and then like raise their platforms or something, right? In that way. But it's different than asking a party apparatus to do these things, because I don't think either one is set up to actually have these conversations. Instead, we actually want to be finding influencers on the left who have these answers, who can fit the role. Like what you were saying, or someone was saying about like fitting the stereotypical even look, right? Having the muscles, like doing the fitness thing, but still having a steady hand and be able to push these values and responsibilities. That's what we want. But I don't think we will get like the DNC is set up to do that.
I agree. The Democrats should give me money.
If I may, and I wish Visora is here for this. I don't know what she's doing, but she'll be back soon, I hope.
She said she went to the bathroom.
Oh yeah, that's true. But I do want to get this out because it's important, and I think this will drive the remaining 20 minutes we have.
Subscribe to Wick.
In a more okay, we'll get to that, right? But in a semi-productive fashion. One of the things that men want, especially young men, is purpose. Okay, they want purpose. Mm-hmm. They want something, right? The traditional role of being a provider, of being a supporter, of having that responsibility to care for a family. What a lot of young men see that as not as a burden, not as a box, but as they matter. They're important. They actually serve a function that if they don't serve this function, things will go wrong. And they want that space. They want to be the provider. They do. They want to matter in a very real way. And again, you may argue that this is a bad way to matter or a toxic way to matter or what have you, but Republicans are providing this way to matter for men. And I don't see that same thing from the Democrat or the left side. I don't see that.
I think it's perfectly fine.
Hold on 1 second. But the Republicans, I don't think the Republicans are providing this. I think the conservatives are speaking to it, though.
Okay, by providing, they're speaking to it.
Sure. Yeah, no problem. But but what do we actually want here, right? Like, I think I agree with your point overall, Wick. But I think that's been undermined, right? By like women, their wages increasing, their role in society increasing, where women can.
That is part of the crisis, yes.
Yeah, right. So, like, is that what we want? Do we want it simply to be a case that men are like paid more, and so they're in a monetarily advantageous position, and then they can be the leader? Or
no, he's asking for validation.
Or we can sure.
Let Prime finish. Let Prime finish.
Yeah, almost done. So yeah, can we define what it means to be a provider in this day and age? Because before it was like just having a financially advantageous position. But you're saying, is it validation? Is it I don't know, to feel that their roles I get within the family is better defined in some way? Like I don't know what that means.
Okay, let me try to answer that.
No, I was just telling you, it is.
Hold on. Let me try to answer that because you did ask a question. I think it's important to answer that. I think that what men want is to feel that they matter, right? Mm-hmm. And how do we provide that? I wouldn't say by going back to where women can't have like fucking jobs or can't have fucking a bank account on their own.
I don't
think that's the
government mandated girlfriends.
Yeah,
I've spoken to that topic before.
Oh,
women can just be nicer to men.
Wick.
Don't take the bait.
Can I ask you a question? Because I'm gonna forget. Because
my answer doesn't matter. Okay, because your question is more important than mine.
No, I'm gonna forget. Otherwise,
go ahead.
Because in your setup for this, you said that Republicans are speaking to this, and Democrats aren't. And I would disagree. In fact, I think the Democrats spoke to it more, especially during the election, because there was a lot more talk of, let's give you increases in your access to money. Let's decrease your taxes by $6,000. Let's give you the permanent child tax credit. All of this again.
You're doing it again.
No, but
being too smart.
It's all of it is money.
They didn't focus it on men.
If men want a purpose, men want a purpose, do they not? Well, the purpose that they want is to...
Men want to be pandered to, and we're not pandering to the men.
Yeah, well, they don't want to be pandered to.
Yes, they do.
They want value.
They are valid. They're valid.
But this right
wanting
here,
to be the provider is valid.
The Democrats confirm that worth and value to
Men
males
just
then?
want to
Why
be able
don't
to
males
answer
see
a
it?
question without getting interrupted.
Why
That's what
can't
I meant.
men?
just
I mean,
wanna
we
have
also that
fun.
too. But
Why?
my question is, Visora, why don't the males see that coming from the Democrats then? If that's what
Because
they
of the
believe,
media
why is
environment.
this not communicated to them?
Because of the media environment. The media
Which
environment
does
is
what?
entirely
Panders to
right wing.
women.
That
Who does
panders.
Harry Sesson?
Who the
does Harry
fuck? What are you
Sesson,
talking about?
pander
The
to?
media environment
does
is
Harry
all
Sesson-
right wing. Harry Sesson makes
Okay,
like
so
a drop in the bucket. Yes, on
so
TikTok.
on TikTok, who gets
Yeah.
pandered to?
I don't know. I don't go on TikTok.
Women.
No.
The-
It's not young
the-
men.
No.
The Democrats do
Of
not
course they
pander to
don't.
No,
young
you
men.
can't say that.
It's
Because
no
women
TikTok.
and
Wait,
women-
hold on.
Absolution
That's a lie.
to
TikTok
any
panders to
ideal that
you
males
based
like
on
or
your
care about, bro.
algorithm. TikTok
They have a
panders to
little algorithm, yeah,
it's
like
based
that,
on
like,
whoever the
it panders
fuck is
to
using
everybody.
it, my
What are you
guy.
talking about?
If you love Andrew
Yeah.
Tate and you go on TikTok, you get pandered to by
You'll find a
Andrew
lot of
Tate
Andrew
He's
Tate,
manosphere
banned.
shit.
yeah.
He's been
No,
banned.
but
No, wrong.
take
Yeah,
this a
but,
step
like,
further.
you understand,
Take
Literally
though,
can't
No,
even
but the
mention
shots still
Andrew
go
Tate on
through.
TikTok.
the reason
Tate is not
the
a
reason that
bomb.
we all think this is an
I'll
issue.
leave you, please.
I'm honestly done.
Phineas has a good answer to this. I'm going to read it, even though he didn't pay me any money, but it's perfect. We helped men by helping everyone is a democratic version of responding to Black Lives Matter with All Lives Matter.
How about
Well, I agree. I agree that like I don't like I don't like this policy or saying that the policy of like child tax credit equal helping men, right? Again,
Chat,
I,
oh
I,
my
like,
God,
I think it's a
like,
good policy.
it's
like,
so
but
simple
when people
of-
are talking about, hey, we have these maybe
everybody
systemic
is
issues that are
oppressed and
holding,
apparently like
a
oh
group
sorry
back,
you're
right?
too
And then we
broad
say,
with
okay,
that,
well,
you're being
here
too
is a
smart that you
policy
can't
that,
understand that
raises
everyone
all
is
boats.
oppressed,
It's not
that
necessarily
all of it is
bad,
fucking
right?
with
You
you.
don't have to put these things in opposition, but that still doesn't necessarily address the thrust of it. And I think it's valid for people within a group, right, who's feeling
And Prime
themselves
is
being
giving
held
them
back
too
by
much
systemic
like
issues to
credit.
want, right, their politicians to quote unquote pander to them, or to actually, what that actually means, address the issue.
Yeah, like this whole thing is so silly. Like this, I don't know why this is an arguable point. The right, I agree, obviously is not providing material things to men. They're obviously, making all these wealth disparities. They're making people's lives work. But
You're
all
right,
they have
not
to
laws.
do
It is
is
conservative
again, this is
propaganda
a
makes
neutral
men
to
feel like
negative on the
victims.
Democrat side versus a positive, right? They are not appealing to men on the Democratic side, and on the right wing, all they're doing is, hey, look, I like guns and trucks and cool stuff and sports and shit. Don't you want to vote for me? And it's working. That's the problem. The whole debate is the problem that they just have to have brain dead fucking
right's
traditionally masculine
relatable.
pandering, and it works. And we need to do some
But
sort of
they don't do just that. They don't do just
need
that.
to
One of
just
the-
do
one
that.
of the-
That's the
one of the
thing
most
that's winning people
effective
over.
One of the most effective attacks that Trump had during the campaign was Trump's for you and she's for they them, right?
Which
They're
was a
for
lie.
the other, right?
This is exactly
I
what
understand
I'm
it was
saying.
a lie.
No, I know.
That's
I'm saying
exactly
it's
what I'm
effective
saying. The
attack.
messaging
We don't have
is
to throw
something that's
clear every
completely
single time
irrelevant.
that it was a
talking
lie.
about trans
We've said
issues,
that
and
enough.
it works.
I think people have gotten it.
It's the
Okay, that
media
we don't believe
environment.
it. We can genuflect later. But here's the crux and the core of it. As I've been trying to get out, and my brevity does. Oh, that pizza looks delicious. The brevity is not one of my strong suits, and I apologize for that. Okay. But what I've been trying to get out is one of the ways that Democrats need to come forward and to win and start the process of winning men back is to recognize that they fucked up, that they have been dismissive of men's problems, that they have been telling men to kind of shut up and sit down, and we're going to stop doing that. I think that's the first step, to say we aren't going to allow our
I have an example.
politicians to dismiss you
Yeah, I
anymore.
agree.
To
I have an
make
example of this.
woman
It's a
speaking, we
simple
will
thing.
sit
No,
down
hold on.
and
I
shut
have a
up, all
really
right?
simple explanation that you're right, Wick.
I'll
That you
sit
could
down and
just
shut up, and you can say, yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, you should, as you should. Get me a beer too while you're at it. Look, a really easy way that we can do that, by the way, is just change some of the wording that we use. Like, for example, we talk about deaths in war and we talk about women and children all the time, but we don't ever mention men because apparently, like, men are all counted as combatants in that issue, for example. That's one thing you could do. Just a small little increase in how you word something, instead of saying, look at all these women and children dying, into look at all these people dying. And yes, it's more women and children, but it's not discounting the fact that men are also being killed and also counted less. Let's say if we're talking about Gaza, for example, the count of how many civilian men died, I'm gonna go ahead and assume is just a couple 100, maybe 1,000 short of how many were actually civilians versus how many were combatants. And we always talk about the women and the children, which is important as well, but it's the phrasing. So I can see that there could be some phrasing distinction to add a bit more pandering to men on the Democrat end. But at the same time, like, can we drop the idea that the Democrats actually work for you in any way? Like, there's like 3 Democrats that give a shit about you.
I disagree. Look, we're going to have a debate, me and you, Visora, maybe Prime too. I think that the Democrats are working for people, and
some of them are. I think most of them are controlled opposition.
But Biden, for example, did a lot for this country,
I agree.
right?
Biden domestically.
Yeah, but Biden's gone now, so that's not even relevant.
Obama did a lot for people, right? He was very strong.
Obama's gone now, so that's not relevant. The DNC is pretty much dead.
We're talking about Democrats today, Wick. Democrats today.
Now.
Democrats today.
Well, Democrats today don't know what they are yet. They're fighting. They're in a civil war.
They're controlled opposition. They've bent the
they are in a
knee.
civil war right now. You were on one side of the line. I'm on the other in the control.
We need.
I'm not a Democrat. Please, wait. Do not call me a Democrat.
Oh my God. Okay.
Go, Wick. Go.
This idea that we can appeal to men by changing how we refer to things sometimes is not going to work. We need to be stronger.
Well,
we need to come out forcefully, and we need to say, we fucked up. We are going to do better.
Fuck that.
Right?
No,
No,
never
that's
what
what
I'm
we
doing.
need to
That's
do.
emasculating.
I disagree.
Wick. We need to come out and say, actually, we've done everything right, because that's all that Trump ever fucking
That's
does.
true.
When's the last time he ever said he did anything wrong?
never,
Fuck that.
never
I'm not
play
gonna come up and be like,
defense.
oopsie doopsie, I'm so sorry, man. I'm gonna come out, hey, you're a fucking pussy ass bitch if you don't vote for a Democrat. You want me to fucking slap you across the face? That's what we're gonna do.
The soy pill, based as fuck. What you come out and say is the Republicans have been lying to you. They pretend like they give a shit about men, but all they've done is destroy your lives, take your rights away, make it harder for you to get near any woman, because now every woman in America is terrified of Republican voting men. That's what they did for you. How about you join the side that actually gives a shit about improving your life? Whether you're a man, a woman, child, I don't give a shit. We just want to improve your life if you're an American. We work for Americans.
Needs to be wider and larger than every Republican and mog them in every debate. That's how we win. I'm sorry. It's actually going to be how it works.
Exactly. Stop being nice. Stop playing defense. Control the conversation. It's their own. They should be defending everything themselves. Okay. Every single point.
Let me read these.
LDR, Wick's
then we're getting to closing, right?
Sorry.
We're gonna read these super chats, and we're gonna get to closing statements.
I gotta head out. Hold on, let me do mine.
Do yours real quick if you have to go. Go ahead.
Yeah. Thanks all for thanks Wix for inviting me. Thank you all for having a great conversation. I think it was a lot of fun. Shout out to everyone. Nice to see you again, Bass. And Nasser. It's been a very, very long time. I hope you're doing well. Visora, fiery as always. And like awesome. I think you're great. Just letting you know that. And then of course, Soy Pill. I haven't met you before, but this was a lot of fun. I'll send
nice to meet you, man.
I'll send you a friend request. Hopefully we can work together in the future. But again, Wick is fantastic. I really appreciate him having me on, inviting me. A really amazing individual here. Subscribe to him. Support my friend Wick. And I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Yeah, thanks. Bye-bye. And we'll see you soon. We'll read out into him in a second. But I do want to read these super chats, and then I want to get this to the closing statements, and we can wrap this up. But $5 from Joe the Mig to say, delusional. Clinton-era Dems rolled over. Republicans with a unified liberal message. $5 from Miles Kinslow to say, the Trump administration first term helped protect due process for men during the rape on campus hysteria. Thank you for $5. $5 more from Joe the Mick. She's genuinely wrong. Domestic violence rates between men and women are near parity in the US and UK. You need to get the Tin Men on these discussions, Wick. Hey, you have them DM me and I'll see if what we can do. $5 from TL1524. It's funny to watch the toxic feminist not realize she is one. The point is demonize half the populace. They won't vote for you. It's that simple. $2 from Joe the Mick. $2 from Joe the Mick. Wick, don't allow this whataboutism. £5 from Jacob Buckingham. How much for the bike with the cap to never be on a panel again? You're the only one with a cap on, so there you go.
What's a bike?
I don't know. He's British. It might be slang. I don't.
Hope it's awesome.
$10 from Joe the Mig. It's not a social construct that men want to care for their family. Our hormone profiles literally change to increase our care aspect when we get married and have children. Blank slatism must end. Thank you for the $10. $5 from Testicle Johnson. We need to normalize men windmilling their peens in front of their partners.
Hell yeah.
Okay. $5 from Chernog Rebellion. For people so smart, the left wing sure does suck at explaining their points. Maybe instead of glazing yourself about how smart you are, self-reflect. $5 from Lisa. The Republicans appeals to feelings, and Dems are trying to appeal with facts and data despite your feelings. Facts don't matter if people don't feel good. Thank you for the $5. And finally, $5 from Joe the Mick. Republicans pursue policies to help the nuclear family. Quote, Republicans are lying to you, end quote. Thank you for the $5. Okay, with that, thank you, all of you, for being here for this. I don't know if it was productive, but it sure was interesting debate. I really enjoyed this conversation. Thanks to all the people who showed up. I do have links in my comments below to all their stuff, including Primes, who had to leave a little early. We got some great content coming up. Tomorrow, I'll be debating Counter Connor. Or counterpoints, if you will, on the deportation issue and the immigration issue. He says Khalid Mahmoud Khalid, Khalil,
Khalil
I'm
Mahmoud.
butchering the name. Thank you. Should be deported. I strenuously disagree. So we'll have a little
Due
one-on-one
process
debate
for
on
everyone.
entering the ring. I'll be entering the ring and defending due process and freedom of speech. Yes, even for non-citizens. That should be fun. On Thursday, we're going to have a show on Trump saying that he isn't joking about wanting to run a third term. So that is going to be a fun discussion as well. So tune in for that. And with that, let's give it to Bass to start us off, or let Visora have the last word. Bass, tell people who you are, where they can find you, what your closing thoughts are. Go ahead.
All right, well, I'm Bass FZZ on YouTube. Like I said earlier, I'm a social commentator, I like to say, talking about society and all that good stuff. To close, I think that without much of trying very hard, I've kind of shown exactly what the issue with the Democrats or the more left-leaning side of these discussions are. And that is, for as much as they themselves might, if I give them the grace, understand that there's nuance and complexities to these issues that young men are dealing with, oftentimes they are very quick to dismiss them, at least on the front end, and they don't give much space to the emotional issues and weight that young men are going through and what they're level, all that good stuff is growing so much in male favor is because there is a space of, at least, even if you don't agree with it, at least some type of standard or concept of being a man. Whereas on the left-leaning side, they either have deconstruction or just they're told, or they only hear of their toxic aspects. And as such, just from that psychological point of view of like, well, this side doesn't like me, but this side gives me something to go for, whether the Republicans, conservatives, or whatever even adhere to any promise is irrelevant. They're not outwardly hating them and telling them they're terrible people. And so I think that's our masculinity problem right there.
Yeah.
And
Thank you for being here, Xerxes. I always appreciate you on the panel. I appreciate your perspective. You can find his channel. It's linked in below in my YouTube comments. So go check him out. Nasser, go ahead.
Well, I think when it comes to masculinity, it changes through the ages. Generally, it also, some people have to, it's kind of really subjective. You know, there are one-parent households where the boy in the family will have to grow up a little bit sooner than in certain cases, or there'll be parents on both sides. Or so I guess when we're talking about the single-parent household, they're going to be in search for like a masculine figure, and the red pill may end up filling that gap, unfortunately. We need better role models probably on both ends. It's not necessarily just one. And it doesn't really even have to be on the political lines. It shouldn't necessarily be. It's like we need parental guidance outside of politics at the local level, among your community, that doesn't have anything, it doesn't have to do with politics. We just need good role models that are not like hyper clout, the hyper clout generation, we'll call it. But it's just interesting. And I liked Viz, but Viz also needs to olive branch a little bit more. We gotta stop harping on negative traits and kind of olive branch and kind of understand that males make mistakes and males need to learn to grow and be held accountable. And then same thing with Xerxes. Men should probably be held accountable at times, and they need to be held accountable at times when their mistakes are made. So it's we need to olive branch both ways, you know. All right, I'm
Both
done.
ways. By olive branching. No, thank you for being here. Really appreciate you. And gang, just to be clear, I'm not
we get a
ending the
flex?
stream after this. I do have some things I want to talk about, but I am ending the panel. We're going to send these lovely individuals out. I just want to let you know. So don't leave. Stay. Okay, Soy Pill, go ahead.
Yeah, it's like I said at the beginning. I don't know why we kept deviating off this. The messaging and the pandering is not there for the Democrats. The Democrats, like Xerxes said, unfortunately, I have to agree with them a lot in this debate. I say that, Xerxes, because you and I ideology, we just don't align. But when you say something that's right, I got to acknowledge, yeah, Democrats are doing neutral to negative pandering to a very large swath of the population, which is men, specifically white men. And I'm not saying we need to identity politic and embody that. I'm just saying that you need to acknowledge their grievances in ways that aren't alienating to them. And that's what we're doing. My point was proven like 2 or 3 times in this specific panel. Visora was saying something based and objectively correct, but it didn't matter because people didn't understand it, whether that was Wick or Xerxes, whoever. And that's just proves my point. It's not about the point that being true. It's about how you present it. And right now, the way we're presenting it is bad. We need more people on the left to embody masculine traits, to be, bodybuilders, fitness influencers. We need people to be, like I'm the gun guy, I'm the truck guy. That doesn't mean we all have to do it, and I don't think we all need to do it. I think there's plenty of room for all sorts of men all over the spectrum. I just think we sorely need the traditionally masculine ones so we can win those people that are on the right back. Happy Trans Day of Visibility. Trans Day of Visibility. More trans men need to be testosteroning up the place with woke masculinity. That's what I think. And all I can say is, yeah, if we need, there we go. There's the flex. Yeah, all I can say is, yeah, let's be more masculine. Let's really do it. Left. Dang, I'm pretty.
Good job. Soy Pill, always a pleasure. Thank you for being here, and I do really appreciate your perspective. You can find a link to his channel in my description. Last, but certainly not least, always fiery, one of my favorites, Visora. Go ahead.
Well, first off, I didn't know it was Trans Day of Visibility, so thank you. And happy Trans Day of Visibility to anyone who might be watching and is trans, or not, really. But no, I agree. And realistically, I think that the gender role stuff, I don't tend to give a shit about because I don't believe in gender. I'm a gender abolitionist, but I can engage with people who do. But I think all of this goes beyond all of that to just the point of empathy. It's just empathy. We don't have engagement in local communities. We don't have in-person social interaction the way that we used to do. And because of that, and because of the online engagement communities that we built in the last 20 years, where you have a mask, where you are anonymous, where you can say more, where there's less consequences, we have lost our ability to empathize with other people to the same extent, even if it's only conditional. Maybe you do have empathy in some cases, but online generally, especially when it comes to politics, we don't apply empathy to anybody, let alone the opposition, just kind of in general, anyone who disagrees with us as a society. Not all of us. And this is a larger issue on the right, but it does exist on the left as well, and not just the Democrat left, further to that as well. So really, I think empathy is my key here. If you want to win as a Democrat, empathy, substance. You got to improve people's standard of living, improve the material conditions, and you also have to, we would have done better in this last election if we did push DEI and identity politics. If we did, Kamala Harris never said the word. Yeah, Kamala Harris never said the word transgender this entire election. Maybe she should have. Maybe we should have pushed harder for protecting DEI initiatives. Maybe we should have had Kamala Harris talking about how this is mostly white women who are getting benefits from it. I think it's a matter of messaging, as you have said, the Soy Pill. Secondly, it's the empathy. And thirdly, it's the material conditions. Everything else is a distraction that is manufactured by the right. The masculinity issue exists, but it is also a manufactured issue. It's not to the
Parental issue
extent.
anyway.
It's not to the extent that it would exist without the media environment around it. But
Okay.
that's my take.
Okay, gang, you can find her. I linked to her YouTube channel. You can click on that link in my YouTube description and give her a follow. Thank you all for being here. We're not leaving. I'm
Thanks,
just
Wick.
letting them go away. So I'm going to leave you guys to go away.
Thanks for
Bye-bye.
having me on, Wick,
Bye.
and nice to meet you all. See
Nice
ya.
to meet you all.
Holy shit, guys!
Alrighty. That was fun. No, I did. I appreciated that.
End that call. Hello, hello, hello. Hold on. I will be back in half a second. There we go. God damn, that sucked. The brain damage was wild. It was very funny. When I said gender abolitionist, I didn't see him do it because I wasn't looking at the screen. The guy, getting really mad about that. That was excellent. 10 out of 10. You'll love this. I gotta see.
Duh, I disagree with the author of this script. And I agree with the author of this script. Yeah. Duh, I'm wrong. And I'm right.
Yeah, basically. Thank you all for tuning in. I hope that wasn't too bad for y'all. Let me look through chat a little bit. Gen Z and millennials don't want to vote for genocide. That's true. And again, even though they were saying that Zoomers shifted undeniably right, that shift was temporary, guys. The Zoomers are not shifting right. Zoomer boys that are stuck on social media and have been brainwashed are there. The rest of them, not really. Zoomers are mad, just like we are. Maybe not to that same extent, because they're not as politically aware and active, or maybe even educated based on some of the media that they're consuming, but that's also not true. It's just not. The convo basically came down to Republicans send me to war, want them to support an entire family, want them to work for fucking 60 hours, want to send them to El Salvadorian gulags, want little boys to work in factories, but the Dems don't talk nice enough to men. Basically, yeah, that was really the entire argument. I mean, it was very telling that, it was Visora's right, but they're too dumb to understand it. It was not fun. You missed severe brain damage and colon cancer, pretty much. Did anyone mention problems that men are facing and what politicians could do to solve those problems? Well, I did. But no, the rest of them didn't really. You had the opportunity to go hard on fighting for your American freedoms and completely fumbled it. I tried, man. They kept cutting me off. I was literally pushing that when Wick cut me off. Which was very annoying, in fact. It was kind of rude. I'm kidding. That wasn't that rude. But, yeah. Have we not learned to reach across the aisle and give 300 rats in a skin suit a little hug and a kiss like Gavin Newsom? Yeah, apparently not. Thankfully. Oh, yeah. Jeez, hold on. There's a lot of chats coming in. I'm going to jump into this fascist meat grinder because you're not nice enough to me, pretty much. No, I agree with the glasses guy on that point. The idea, substance, or truth matters in a debate. Specifically in a debate is wrong. Debate is 100% performative. It has nothing to do with truth or substance. Well, I agree with that. But, he wasn't saying this in a debate, context. He was saying it in the debate format, but he was saying it about Democrats as a whole, we focus too much on substance and not enough on performing. And I agree that we could perform more, but I don't agree that we spend too much time on substance. Roxfist, I can't wear a muscle shirt in public anymore. Who tells you you can't? Well, no one, but I feel like it's really close by how Republicans tell me Democrats are acting. Yeah. They think feeling ostracized the same as being oppressed. True. They do. So wanted to join in on that panel with you, Grim Reaper. I would have loved to have you on there. I think Democrats were trying to play feminist extremists. Now you can't put men and extreme feminism together. There is no extreme feminists that were Democrats, like, that were trying to, I don't know, hate on men. Like, that's not a thing. That's not a real coalition. There's like 6 people, maybe. What's up, Zachap? You got in right when it ended, so good timing on that. Yeah, you did miss the debate, but it wasn't a fun one. Anywhere near as fun as I expected it to be. Be fair, like, the lineup changed a little bit. Whew! Okay, well. We still have a lot of news to cover, but I feel like I should be nice to you guys and not make you listen to Elon's town hall yesterday. Unless you want to. Do you guys want to listen to Elon's town hall yesterday? I would have loved true radfem Democrats. It depends on the type of radfem. I can think of women's issues relating to equal pay and reproductive rights, but men simply don't have these problems. Like, the ones that I mentioned specifically around men is, like, the expectation of you have to provide everything. Is, like, one that I put out there. Is you have to provide everything, and if you fail at this, then you are a failure as a man, is an ideology that many men believe in America. The blue-haired feminist is a character and not a real person. Go to any bookstore, actually look up feminist literature. It's not what that is, obviously, but, like, reality, these people, you know? There's IDK if you're a rad femme, but it would have been so fucking funny if you started shitting on their entire idea of masculinity by start being misandrist. I thought about it. I could have. Like, at least for the debate. Not that I believe any, like, of that. I'm not a misandrist, but it would have been fun. But I didn't think it would be productive. Hogwatch, hogwatch, hogwatch. Alright, let's do some hogwatch. Well, let's start with this one. You hate men. I can't believe that they called me a fucking, like, what was it, extremist feminist or feminist, radical feminist? Are we looking at farm animals? We're looking at Animal Farm, actually. Bottom right was the worst. Yes, absolutely. This is true. Now hold up, because I'm getting some links ready for you guys. Oh, actually, let me talk about this one first. Not Hogwatch. Because I did mention this during the debate, and I think that it's quite widely ignored. So, Tim Walz has been doing the rounds. He's been going around. Oh, why did chat disappear? He's been doing the rounds. He's been doing his town halls. And in one of these town halls, he said something that I have yet to hear from any other Democrat.
That our strength is our diversity. We've been talking about this for years as a country of immigrants, and we let them define the issue on immigration. We let them define the issue on DEI, and we let them define what woke is. We got ourselves in this mess because we weren't bold enough to stand up and say, you damn right we're proud of these policies.
Yeah. Proud being woke. Dark woke, motherfucker. Like, I can't hear much either, but here, it's the loudest that'll go. I'll just say it out loud for you.
That our strength is our diversity.
Our strength is our diversity.
We've been talking about this for years as a country of immigrants.
We've been talking about this for years as a country of immigrants.
And we let them define the issue on immigration.
We let them define the issue on immigration, on DEI.
The issue on DEI, and we let them define what woke is.
We let them define what woke is, when we should have stood there and said, goddamn right, I'm proud of these. This would have done better.
We got ourselves in this mess because we weren't bold enough to stand up and say, you damn right we're proud of
We got ourselves in this mess because we weren't bold enough to stand up and say that we do support our policies, that we are proud of these policies. I still would like whoever bottom right was to explain what lefty Democrat is. You're not going to get any real explanation from Xerxes because Xerxes doesn't believe in reality. So, there's that. I think both males and females have extreme ends. Feminists have fantastic points. Unfortunately, men need an update because, unfortunately, they're stuck in the right wing and weaponized. I mean, to be fair, lots of women are also on the right wing and are being weaponized by the right. That's not exclusive to men. Again, I don't think that this issue is a gendered issue. I think the issue is a class issue. Now, as someone brought up, I think it was Lennon who brought it up. Yes, there is talk about Donald Trump running again. No, I don't think it's worth talking about consistently. I'm going to bring it up once just to, like, give you the coverall. They're talking about a third term. Stop giving it coverage. Stop validating it. Just laugh at them, call them, like, idiots, and move on. And also, Donald Trump is not going to live long enough to serve through this term and then another, but...
And the second new headline, President Trump saying he would not rule out seeking a third term as president, telling NBC News there are several methods to accomplish this. Also new today, and the second...
You know, I brought a prop for that debate, and I didn't get to use it. I was expecting at least one of the... I was expecting the incel one to start crying so that I could pull up this and say, hey, did you need a pacifier? Are you okay? Then Obama can run for another term? No, he can't. Simply Steve. They're making it so that the only reason that Trump can run for a third term is because any president who didn't serve 2 consecutive terms could serve a third. So, because Obama had 2 consecutive terms, no, he wouldn't be viable. But at the same time, like, of course, the federal election is going to be rigged anyway. But, you know, there it is. 12 more years from the Daily Mail. They want 12. How Trump could be president until 2037. That's what they want. I wish you had brought up the dummy. I was waiting for a good, moment for it, but there wasn't one. Here's Laura Trump talking about how they want to put him on Mount Rushmore. Like, this is all just cuck daddy fantasy. Like, it's the king,
Superior is in charge of the National
All hail
Park
the God
Service.
King.
The National Park Service is in charge of Mount Rushmore. A lot of people wonder, will we ever see President Trump's face on Mount Rushmore? What do you think?
Well, they certainly have room for it there. They just signed the order last week. On July 3rd, 2026, we're going to have fireworks at Mount Rushmore. And we've got a lot of amazing USA 250 events planned from across the country.
With a superior is
All hail the emperor, I guess. What's wrong with her face? It looks so unnatural. She's had a lot of plastic surgery. And it was done poorly. That's what's wrong with her face. While we're still in the aftermath of a debate, by the way, I forgot, I want to show you guys these. Some brain damage that you're gonna have to suffer a little bit more of. Here we go. Here's a Jubilee-style debate.
Anti-vaccine lies cost lives.
Also
I just
true
had a
while I'm
baby,
Homo
7 months
sapien.
old. And, my baby, I was like, no, I'm not getting any vaccines. The doctors came in, they made me feel like a very bad mother.
You are a bad mother. I was gonna say, hot take. I haven't seen this clip yet, so I don't know what's being said here, but if you're not vaccinating your kid, you're a bad parent. If it was up to me and you didn't vaccinate your children, like, Child Protective Services should take your children from you, or the state should force you to go, I don't know, do some parenting classes or something like that. What's up, Maddie Holmes?
Mother for not doing that, right? I was very pressured. And then I had a family friend who had a baby at the same time, was a few months in, gave vaccines to the baby, and the baby had seizures and has had seizures since.
Well, first of all, congratulations on the birth of a 7-month-old. The fact that anyone made you feel bad in the
Jubilee's function is to laugh at conservatives being stupid, Rondo.
healthcare system, I feel like is a failure on us in the healthcare system, so I'm sorry that happened to you. In healthcare, it's very difficult to predict the future.
I know.
Because
Sorry,
there are
mate.
so many unknowns and there's so many variables in healthcare. There are things that are outside of our control. And we try to do the best with the limited amounts that we can control. So when we see 2 things happen simultaneously,
I have a lot of stuff on topic to show, in fact, after this as well. I just wanted to show you this terrible mother. Look, do we need to finish the rest of this example? Like, yes, you should vaccinate your kids, and if you don't do that, then you're a bad parent. The issue with this specific video is the idiots kept red flagging and Dr. Mike couldn't finish explaining shit to people. Yeah, unsurprising. Unsurprising. You know what? Hold on. I opened some links, but I want to show you some other links first. These I feel like are a bit more pressing to the moment. So this one we saw already at the beginning of stream. If you weren't here, this one's for you. This is the issue of masculinity on the right. We spent this entire debate talking about how the left has issues with masculinity when this is the right wing. This is your median conservative right now on Twitter. To be honest, I've never seen my wife happier. I'm glad the Jews took her from me. She deserves better. Those dudes you were debating kept pushing warming over eugenics at times. I saw that too, yeah. Couldn't really get into it, but what really made me insanely mad during that debate as well was the fact that like I couldn't go into nuance, but like they were all good with listening to Prime say the exact nuance that I was, but sure. This is a kink thing, but it's also an insecurity thing, and it's also a fascist thing. This right here, the Jews took her from me with this picture. This is the foundation of Republican ideology. Honestly, it was an insipid debate. That's probably the best word you can use to describe it. This right here, though, is the foundation of Republican ideology. I'm much happier having deleted my Twitter account. Yeah, I don't blame you, Zoxfist. And it so you were the only good thing on that debate. Well, thank you. I'm glad you endured it, at least for me. I totally saw them shutting you down and ignoring you. Like, it was annoying. Like, I was having the same point. Even Prime said it. But, whatever. You're a woman and have conviction and are the source of like 85% of right-wing male insecurity. Hence why they're like, oh, you have to be nicer to them. You're being too smart when this is how right-wing men act around women.
Can I hang out with you?
My guy just stole my car, so
Where'd he go? Newport Coast? Huh? Can I hook up with you? What kind of vagina do you have? Is there any?
We talked about this at the beginning of the stream. First and foremost, not how you approach a person in a car park, but secondly, like, this is the disgusting shit that not only do they believe, but that they enjoy. They create content and enjoy this.
Or Audi?
This is inhuman behavior.
I'm gonna call the cops if you don't.
Yeah, fuck you.
Yeah.
You want me to be nice to these people? You want me to put an olive branch to these people?
Annoying, dude.
Why are you following me?
Because I want to fuck.
It's not satire. No, this is real.
My fat ass cock is ready to get hard for you.
This is conservative men. This is what they're normalizing. Remember how like they laughed at me when I said one of the things that Republicans did for men was taking away women's bodily autonomy. They all laughed at me.
Why would you call the cops on me, bro? I'm just speaking.
It doesn't matter.
Fuck you, you little bitch, you little void. Oh, you little. Whoa, what's wrong with you? Chill out, chill out, chill out. Hey, chill out. Chill out. Chill out. You just kicked me in the balls. You back up. You back up. You back up. Throw that at me, you're gonna.
Oh, by the way, they are all this guy. I don't know who this guy is, but this is all Republicans. The guy that'll start an argument, and then the moment that someone hits back, she throws her shoe at him, he maces her and then runs away. Every Republican. Every single one of them. They'll start an argument, and then the moment that it hurts them, that they're losing, gone. It's a total kink, too, as well. It absolutely is. Ironically, if one of those girls were like, okay, let's fuck, he would freak the fuck out anyway. He wants violence, not connection. That's true. No, this is beyond Nick Fuentes' behavior. Nick Fuentes, like, is a femboy anyway, so closeted femboy. But you want to know how these people, treat their wives? Hey, we were talking about the nuclear family. How conservative men want to support and take care of their family. They want to, they want to be the provider. Here's one of the wives of probably the most prominent conservative figure in the world right now.
Selling it because...
Or not wives, baby mamas.
They need to make up for the 60% cut that Elon made to our son's child support. selling it because I need to make
She's
up-
selling her car to make up for the 60% cut Elon gave to her child support. Grim Reaper, I don't know how far up that paragraph was, but I mean, I'll read it after stream. I do read the chats. They want to control women. They don't even like women. This is true.
up for the 60% cut that Elon made to her son's child support.
Why do you think that he did that?
Chat logs are a thing.
That's a great question for him.
It is a great question.
You feel like he was sort of like vindictive against you in some way?
Yeah, that's his modus operandi.
It's his modus operandi when women speak out. Why is Elon acting against you in some way? This is his baby mama.
That's a great question for him.
You feel like he was...
Do you feel like he was sort of vindictive against you in some way? Yeah, that's his modus operandi when women speak out. Fuck Elon Musk. We do need some of those soldiers after World War II. They saw this shit happen. They'd get up and like the fact that we are in this context now means that all of those people are gone. Like they don't exist anymore. They're either too old or they died, because that era of, I don't know, giving a shit about your country, the era of people who knew what happened, who know what fascism looks like, who fought fascists is gone. It's just gone. It's entirely gone. This is what I was trying to say in the gender debate. Yeah, I mean, Ilria, you're right. Oxpecker, people conflate the opposite sex with an abusive parent or a past romantic partner a little too often. If anyone ever new to political discourse, and the first issue they're loud about is feminism and anti-feminism, they are both potentially in very destructive headspaces and need personal support before making bold statements about societal discourse. This is true. Again, like, I would say most of these people, especially most of the people who are like vocally anti-feminist, are just mentally ill.
When women speak out.
When was the last time that you...
When was the last time you spoke to him? Oh, what's up, Nasserga? Good to see ya. Nasser, go and follow Nasser. Nasser was one of the good people in that debate, top left. I know some of you liked him. I quite enjoyed your vibe, Nasser. You were fun. But, like, again, you want to talk about how family values looks like on the right wing? Your facial expressions were hella funny. Yeah, the pizza guy, Captain Buggy. You made it fun by, like, I don't know, fucking around on camera. This is how, by the way, this is the ex-wife of Hulk Hogan, who was, remember, at the inauguration, he was doing rallies for Trump. This is a prominent conservative figure. In fact, Hulk Hogan, former wrestler, this is the type of person that, I don't know, conservatives would often look at as a manly man. Let's see how they treat their families.
Your face out there and know that all these horrible things are going on behind the scenes. Yet he marches on. He marches on like, yeah, oh, I'm promoting my own.
Yeah, he was at the RNC, the guy who tore his shirt open. You know Hulk Hogan, the fucking wrestler.
Beer, real American beer. Yeah, look at me. Woo!
I would have too if I was her, Simply Steve. Oh yeah, sure, I got you, Camel.
Yeah, he's such a hero, right? Not. Okay, I'm gonna give him my thumbs down. I've given him more opportunities to come back and make us a family and try to, I'm sorry, it's so sad.
Where's the providing for your family, you know? He's so fucking racist. Oh, of course he is. But, like, he's a piece of trash. But the reason I'm showing you this, on top of, like, 4 other examples of conservatives being shitty to women who they're either just meeting or in a relationship with or are married / formerly married to. I've yet to see an example of a Republican, of a conservative in a healthy relationship. Hell, look at this one. I don't know. All these people claim they just want to provide for their family, yet none of them actually give a shit about their family. Look at Lauren Southern. She was one of the biggest marketers of trad lives. She wrote this in May, talking about how horrible her life as a trad wife was. And this is written by, like, a right-wing view. Like, if you read the article, it's framed from the right. I dislike this framing that these people give a shit about family values.